Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Simply Incredible podcast with my good friends Fred Hall from Fred Hall Direct Edition
How y'all doing?
and my good friend William, a.k.a. Billy from William and Billy.
Yeah, that would be me.
So today we're going to have a lot of fun talking a lot of here's just part of my list here of 80s movies. This is going to be a two-parter easy. And we're not going to try to go 4 hours today. We're going to bring it down a little bit. If that's okay with you guys.
That's fine with me.
Whatever it takes.
There we go. All right. 1980s. I was telling Fred before we got on, I'm very biased for that time because I was born in the early 70s. So right around the beginning of the 80s is when like my brain just was absorbing everything. Movies, TVs, comics, sports, everything. Wrestling, like me and Fred talked about last week. And I just absorbed everything. And to this day, I feel like, again, I'm biased, but that decade feels like such a huge decade for movies, music, sports, and so many other in comics as well. What do you guys think about the 80s?
Okay. You first, Will? You got it first. You got first one.
Where?
My opinion of the 80s, they say, the World War II generation is the greatest generation. Mm-hmm. But I feel like as an 80s kid, I grew up in one of the best decades. Because you got to think about it, man. We had like Atari. And, by the end of the decade, we were getting Nintendo. And we got to watch all of this cool stuff kind of progress. It wasn't like, I've got two grandkids, and they're fluent with the iPad right now, of all things, they're like 7 and 5. But, like, we got to discover, like, all of these cool things that were coming out. We had, like, the best toys. You had Transformers and G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe. You had like Jim Shooter was running things at Marvel. DC was a little bit down, but you still had, the end of the decade, Batman hit hard. I think, like I say, the 80s, you got to kind of grow into everything and discover everything as it came. And I feel very fortunate to call that my childhood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Me? Oh well, growing up in the 80s, man, it was like a cultural revolution. We had people like we had people like Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? That's sports. Yep. The basketball was, at all-time popularity. In the 80s, we had wrestlers like the biggest wrestler of all time, Hulk Hogan. You know what I'm saying? Macho Man, Randy Savage. The 80s was just a point in time where we were kind of like glued to the TV and glued to music. And when you talk about the 80s, you got to talk about MTV. We're the MTV generation.
That's true.
MTV came out around that time. So I really enjoyed the 80s. The 80s allowed me to be more of a culture person. I wasn't stuck in a box when I was raised. I used to sneak and listen and watch HBO at night, watch movies I wasn't supposed to be watching, and it was just an awesome time to be living, and it was still an innocent time, So I really enjoyed my childhood and all the neon green and polka dots we used to wear and all the crazy hair.
Actually, I did the pre-page thing. I put neon on it specifically for that era. I was like, that neon feels like 1980s.
Yeah.
You could just do an entire show on the musical genesis, from like 1980, the death of disco, to like 1990, like where rap was becoming predominant, and you had the hair bands, and like I say, it just seemed like so much stuff seemed just kind of cutting edge, it wasn't like minor tweaks to something we already had. It's like, hey, here's this brand new thing, get used to it.
Yeah. So much originality. I think that's the word.
And I saw someone put on Facebook, it was like, we went from walking through the mall, talking to each other, to seeing people now walking through the mall, staring at a phone, talking to the person beside them.
Yep. My stepdaughter, no lie, we used to go out to eat, like take one of her friends with us, and they'd be sitting beside each other texting,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
each other, and it just, that's why I hate phones at the table. It's like, I think people have forgotten how to. Now, granted, we've got this technology that allows us to do this right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I think people have forgotten how to enjoy life not through a screen.
Of course. Yeah,
Yep.
You're right. So the movies, how long is that list?
I mean, like I say, I probably have 50 movies, and there's a ton more that I don't even have on here.
You can go by actors. You know what I'm saying? You could just throw out actors like Arnold Schwarzenegger or, Sylvester Stallone, and those were the top guys in the 80s. Bruce Willis,
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
You even had like your outliers, like your Patrick Swayze's. I mean,
Oh yes, definitely Swayze.
I mean,
Oddly enough,
Roadhouse
I forgot to
was
put
all that.
Roadhouse on here.
Do you have Footloose and Grease?
Grease was 70s.
Oh, okay. All right.
Footloose, I did not put Footloose because I never did the Footloose. I could not.
Kevin
do
Bacon.
Footloose was like, that was a movie, man. I mean, that was.
This is what I know about Footloose. At the high school dance, anytime Footloose come on, you heard women screaming, running to the dance floor.
Well, that was the equivalent of "That's My Song."
That's the jam.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh gosh. For me, one of the big things in the 80s, I guess again my age group, was all the John Hughes films.
Oh yeah.
God, I mean, he just made an era of teenage, early college angst movies. Just a ton of them.
Yep.
I mean,
I've seen a couple of them. I can't say I've run the catalog, but yeah, I've seen a couple of them.
I have a feeling you probably saw a lot of these. You remember The Breakfast Club?
I have seen that.
I mean, that iconic scene at the end.
Yeah.
I just recently saw it.
The iconic song at the end, it's
Yeah.
like where, the soundtrack alone,
Yeah, that's another thing about movies back then. So many of them, the music was a huge part of the films. And you hear it a little bit today, but back then it was so prominent.
I think it's become more commercialized today. It's just become another commercial aspect of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be like an honor to have a song featured in a movie, and now it's just like, you got to get paid. This is the way to do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see. I'm just going to run through a few of the John Hughes films. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. I remember 16 Candles.
Yep.
Did not see that, but I'm familiar with Ducky.
Ducky. Yeah. I mean, that whole group of people put a bunch of movies together. I mean, of actors and actresses. Also, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Classic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that movie. Pretty in Pink. This one you may not have seen, but it had basically the same group of actors from 16 Candles. It was basically the same group.
Yeah, it's the modern, what was the 80s term for them? The Brat Pack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rat Pack, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta put them in there.
Let's see. Weird Science.
Just saw that recently. You remember I bought that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to check that one out.
It's weird.
I know,
It's a really good movie. What's his name? Val Kilmer was the main actor in that.
There's stuff that we still get to go back and discover.
That's right. Let's see. National Lampoon's Vacation, Christmas Vacation, European Vacation.
That's Chevy Chase, classic.
Yeah.
Defining comedy of that time period right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I mean, again, all these are still John Hughes films. Mr. Mom with Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the reason I was like, there's no way Michael Keaton could be Batman was when he was Mr. Mom.
But he also did another, I think that was early 90s though. Was he in what was it, Multiplicity? Where he played like 50 different people?
Yeah. And each one had like different personalities along the way. Let's see. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
John Candy.
John Candy, Steve Martin. Love that movie. Those are pillows. Oh my gosh, Uncle Buck and The Great Outdoors, two more John Candy movies. I mean, that's a huge list by one director.
That is.
A huge list of great movies from that era.
That is. When you were talking about 16 Candles, did you notice that the crazy gothic girl was a girl from another 80s movie, Short Circuit? It took me a while.
Oh yeah.
And, you
Oh,
know,
no, that was from Breakfast Club.
yeah, Breakfast Club, the gothic girl.
Yeah.
She was actually in
Ali Sheedy, I believe.
Yeah. And when you talk about 80s movies, like Short Circuit is one of the most funniest,
Yep.
like weird 80s movie that you can think of.
Johnny Five is alive.
Your mama was a leaf blower.
But you know, it's funny. It's like you talk about that. It is funny how like a lot of the robot movies, you know, back then, from like Short Circuit to like Chopping Mall, you know, it kind of had like that dated 80s technology, you know, where you know, we were used to like what was that little robot you could buy and you put the little cards in it at home and it's supposed to interact with you. Of course, then you had like Teddy Ruxpin and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
it does. It kind of shows like just again how technology was growing then, you know, and it was kind of like the future is now, you know.
Yeah. It's technology was dragging back then, but to see it progress in the 90s to CDs and stuff. Now, when I use my CDs, my kids are like, "What's that?" It's a CD.
Yeah, I mean, kids today, they're like, "What's a Walkman?"
Well, if you had told me in like 2001 that DVDs, you know, 10 years later would be just totally obsolete, I would have been like, "You're kidding. No way."
Yes.
I would say this in 2001 or 2002, one of those years, I can't remember which one. One of my friends was like, "You know, we could make a website where people could stream movies, just watch them online." He didn't say stream; he said they could just watch the movies online. And I was like, "There's just not enough bandwidth for that kind of thing." Little did I know, a few years later, Netflix.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Ran Blockbuster out of business.
I was like, "Dang, he was ahead of his time on that one."
So, 80s movies, action, like I was saying earlier, Sylvester Stallone. What's your guys' favorite Sylvester Stallone movie?
Oh, good Lord, man. Who can forget the car in Cobra?
Oh my God, I just saw it, yes.
Mhm.
You know, you talk about these like legendary action actors, you know, that we revisited here recently, you know, with the little franchise that kind of restarted with everybody in it. But
The Expendables
Stallone was definitely up there, man. I mean,
Cobra.
you just look at a lot of the stuff he did.
Yeah, cult classic. What's yours, D? The favorite?
Gosh, I love Rambo, but I think was the first one in the 80s, First Blood.
Yes, that's 80s.
But I think maybe that one, or
70s.
I'll also go with that one that's not very good, even though I still like it, Over the Top.
Over the Top. Yeah, that's a classic.
I thought it was a good movie. I know a lot of people are like, "That's stupid."
Arm wrestling. What's so unbelievable about a truck driver who arms wrestles? And
Yeah, I mean, in the car he's got a little weight set and he's doing the weights and trying to get that arm stronger.
Mine will always be First Blood, and I followed the Rambo franchise onto the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy how he managed to not, you know, he went over the top in the 80s, but he kind of kept it subtle to where you could actually follow the Rambos. I fell off on the Rocky films. I fell off probably when he made Creed. I haven't seen Creed 1 and Creed 2.
They were very good, I thought.
Okay, so
I enjoyed them.
Okay, I got to make it watch.
I didn't see Creed 2, but I would definitely I would recommend Creed, and if you
Well, he has
Sorry,
a little Creed in there for like 2 seconds every so often.
it's weird how it works. I've got great internet and everything, but for some reason I do this. But yeah, Creed, it worked. But like I say, if you don't like it, just ignore Creed 2. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, well, my brother said it was pretty good. He's a Rocky fan. Above
Creed 1 was kind of an homage to probably Rocky.
Yeah.
And then Creed 2 was kind of an homage to Rocky 4.
Okay. Rocky 4 was Dolph
with,
Lundgren.
you have Dolph Lundgren, yeah.
Oh my God, such a great villain.
Yeah.
Talk about 80s. He made The Punisher. He made Master of the Universe. He made
Master of the Universe.
What
You know,
was
in that franchise, what else says 80s more than Mr. T?
Yeah.
Clubber
oh
Lang.
my God, Clubber.
You know?
He had me scared, and I was sitting at
That's
home on
what
the
I'm
couch.
saying.
I remember seeing him the first time when they had that Tough Man competition. Well, not Tough Man, where what do they call it? Like the bar guy competition, where he would like run, like throw something through something, then run and dive through a door.
Oh my God,
That was before those movies. I actually have the autographed comic book around here somewhere.
The crazy thing about Mr. T being a tough guy is he's actually like this tall. But he had a scene. He had one scene in the movie Rocky 3 or whatever.
Yep.
Where he was like, he keep dodging me. He won't give me the championship. He's like, come here, little lady. Let me take you to my apartment and show you what a real man like. I was furious and laughing at the same time. I was like, he's such a good villain. He was great. Clubber Lang.
Like he almost captured the insanity of Mike Tyson. You know, it's almost like he was like kind of channeling that.
Yeah, and that was before Tyson, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
And then he was also in WrestleMania 1
with Hulk Hogan.
With Hulk Hogan against Roddy Piper and was it Mr. Perfect? Not Mr. Perfect.
Mr.
Paul Orndorff, yeah.
Is it Mr. Wonderful or Mr. Wrestling?
It was Mr. Wonderful because he had one Durfol on his trunks, I believe.
Okay. And then you had Cowboy Bob Orton, Randy Orton's father.
Yeah, who for some reason for like multiple years had a cast on his arm.
That was his secret weapon, Ace. But the true story behind that is that when you watch the Hot Rod Piper video, he'll tell you that he hated Mr. T in real life. Roddy did, yeah. So that was pretty funny.
He was like, I'm not going to get pinned by this guy.
Not at all. So 80s, what about 80s horror? What's bigger than Nightmare on Elm Street?
Oh, I was going Friday the 13th.
I give the nod to Nightmare, man, because I tell you what, I feel like even on a bad day, I can try to run away from Jason, but man, Freddy,
you gotta go to sleep.
It's gonna happen sometime, man. You know, I mean, it's like Freddy terrified me. I mean, I was like, I'd probably say like 7 or 8 when I watched Nightmare at a buddy's house. You know, doing a little sleepover thing, and it changed me. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I mean,
which one was that one?
The very first one, and you know the scene where she gets dragged up the wall and dropped.
Yes.
You know, Nightmare changed my butt, man. Yeah. I tell you, it's
the first one was the Johnny Depp, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With that blood scene.
Johnny Depp, yep.
In the bed. Mm-hmm. That was a great scene.
I tell you,
the scene.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was saying the scene. I'm sorry.
Okay, look.
The scene you were talking about, right? The director said that he actually had to have like a spinning room.
Yeah.
And that's how they actually did that scene. So that was like one of a kind. It's crazy that you would mention that scene because that's one of the first times you ever saw like an optical illusion like that because they didn't have CGI back then.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool movie though.
Yeah.
Also in 1980, The Shining came out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Mr. Nickel.
Go ahead. Billy froze again? Go ahead, Billy.
No. You brought it up. Go for it.
That movie to me, I remember I first saw it probably about 5-6 years ago, and it still creeped me out when I saw it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I mean, those two little twin girls. Oh my gosh, they freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Classic.
What was the guy that was there, like the black guy, bald head?
Yeah, that was he was a caretaker, but he had to go home or something like that.
I'm trying to remember what his name was because I remember seeing him in lots of movies back in the day, back in the 70s, like on Carol Burnett's show. Great dancer back in the day.
Oh, that's where he's from. Because I used to love the Carol Burnett show.
I mean, I'm trying to think of my man's name. He was on Sanford and Son many times.
I didn't know that either.
I remember because Sanford was always making fun of his bow legs.
He is bow-legged. Yeah, The Shining is such a classic because if you really watch the movie, it's a very quiet movie. Um, One movie that reminds me of is that they kind of captured The Shining in is 1408. If you saw that movie, but The Shining is a cult classic. Like just is that Stephen King?
Yes.
Yeah.
You already know anything Stephen King does is just horrible. I mean, horribly scary. I'm sorry.
Yep.
So
that guy's name was Scatman Crothers.
Scatman. Okay.
Scatman.
I think The Shining really tapped into the psychological horror.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times, like, the horror had to be visual. You know, and in The Shining, we got to see a whole lot of, you know, what does that mean?
Yes.
What is going on? You know, and I think that really kind of separated the horror genre into two distinct parts from then on out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then, I mean, you know what's really good when years later, The Simpsons, they do an episode from the Treehouse of Horrors based on that.
The Shining.
The Shinning. He got the Shinning. I just watched a movie that, gosh, what was it? The other day. Ready Player One.
Okay.
They had a little scene from that as well, from The Shining. Great movie, by the way. I love that movie.
That's a classic. I try to watch it every other like 3 months, so I don't play it out. But one of the scariest scenes to me that really got me was the beautiful young lady he was kissing, and then she changed into the old lady, and she was chasing him out of the room and laughing. Like that scene there just creeps me to my bones.
Mm-hmm.
So, William, do you collect action figures?
I have dabbled in action figures. I do have a nice little G.I. Joe collection going on.
So you're crazy about the 6-inch figures, right? That they just released?
You know, honestly, like I say, I kind of leave. My passion is comic books.
Okay.
And I have found that the more I try to do outside of that, the more diluted everything gets. And I haven't even seen the 6-inch. I mean, I've seen pictures of the 6 inches.
Okay.
But I think just sticking with the Real American Hero, the 3 3/4.
That's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm staying, and I'm not even doing vehicles. You know, I've got one vehicle, the Rattler, but and I need to, you know, but I feel like right now, just getting the figures, you know, is kind of what I need to do. But I've got so many freaking comic books I got to go through right now, man. It's just like I just don't need I love it all. I just don't need the distractions.
So what about the G.I. Joe movie in the 80s? Did you own that? The cartoon movie?
Yes, actually. I don't own it, but I obviously did watch it. You know, you had a lot of, that was back when we were paying like $40 for VHS tapes.
Yes, sir.
So yeah.
First Sergeant Slaughter.
There you go.
Yep.
Sergeant Slaughter, you know, was
first time I saw
he was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember he quit WWE for a little bit because they wouldn't let him be a part of, what was it, Hasbro?
Hasbro, yeah.
Because WWE action figures were under Mattel, maybe, I think.
I think it was Jax. Was Jax the
Jax
first one?
Jax Pacific, maybe, yeah. And he was like, I really want to do this. See you, Vince. I'll come back later.
He also too was standing up for vacation and insurance for the wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why wrestlers now are free agents, or even back then they were free agents. But that's another thing that made him leave. And you know, when he called Sarge back, he came back as one of the greatest villains in wrestling ever. He took the side of Saddam Hussein. That was.
Yep. I remember when he turned and became partners with the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, General Adnan. Yep. So, but yeah, I was saying, you know, the G.I. Joe movie was a classic with Cobra Law and just all that madness and seeing the history of Cobra. And then we talk about G.I. Joe cartoon movie. you have to segue into the Transformers cartoon movie, which was awesome too.
Yeah, like I said, we had the best of all the worlds there, man. Saturday morning cartoons was a thing. Coming home from school and catching the 4 o'clock cartoon. It all depended on what it was. You know, of course, Masters of the Universe took the place of Tom and Jerry in my world. All we had was the 3 networks. We didn't have cable or anything. You know.
Oh yeah.
We're a little bit on the financially challenged side, you know, and then of course every morning in class, our teacher during homeroom would put on the Bozo show, and they would show the Transformers cartoons on Bozo.
Mm-hmm.
They would break each episode down into 3 parts. So through the course of a week, you would get to watch an episode or 2 of the Transformers by the time it was all said and done.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, that definitely ties into the movies because. It, like I say, the commercialization, the crossover appeal of cartoons becoming at long range advertisements for toy lines, you know, and the appeal was very real.
Oh gosh, I love those cartoons. Oh my gosh, I love those.
Can't get more 80s than that.
No, definitely not.
So I picked up a couple movies as soon as I heard you talking about 80s movies.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite directors of that time, and I didn't even realize it until now, is definitely like Steven Spielberg. Like that dude, him and George Lucas speaks for his own self, you know.
Yeah.
But Steven Spielberg, I didn't know he did Jaws. I was like, Steven Spielberg did Jaws? And what is Jaws? Is Jaws like a horror movie or what? What do we really do with that movie? What category do you put Jaws in?
I put that under horror. I mean,
what
was the tagline? What was the tagline? You'll never want to go back in the water again, or something like that.
Sure enough, won't. So, but
one of my friends said after he saw that he wouldn't even go into a swimming pool.
But yeah, when you talk about Steven Spielberg, he also did Back to the Future, right?
I don't know, did he?
Who did Back to the Future?
I know.
He did. I know he did E.T., which was the biggest '80s movie, one of them.
For me, I still think, I still think that was Drew Barrymore's best movie.
Well, what about Firefly? No. What didn't she do a movie like where she was telekinetic? But
Firestarter.
Firestarter, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, was that her? Or was that that little girl from Poltergeist?
No, that was Drew Barrymore.
Was it Drew?
Yep.
By the way, Poltergeist was a heck of a horror film back then. Oh my gosh, that scared the crap out of me.
Back to the Future, the first one was
Robert Zemeckis.
Okay.
Robert Zemeckis.
So he didn't do it just looks like a Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah, well, I think that's a.
I don't want to. I hate to do this so early in the podcast, but we have to. You mentioned Back to the Future.
Oh, that's nice.
So I have to bring that out.
That's nice.
I'm sorry.
Who's the signature?
It's signed by, let me see, Leah Thompson, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, turn to the back, and Biff, Thomas Wilson.
Oh, that's the whole cast.
I feel like somebody else signed it too. So I thought the lady that played his girlfriend in that first, I thought the girl that played his girlfriend signed it too, but I don't see her name on here.
Well, I tell you though, you say Spielberg, I don't think anything gets more 80s than Indiana Jones.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely love it.
You got, now granted, I'm not the hugest fan of Temple of Doom. And then of course the last one they did, I just kind of forget they even made that.
With the sun and everything, the alien. Yeah.
Yeah.
The new, I thought you meant the third one in the trilogy.
No, that was
Last Crusade is
that to me is my favorite. The Last Crusade.
That is the absolute best.
Sean Connery.
Yeah,
Sean Connery.
Yeah,
but yeah, you had Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sorry about that, guys. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade are just absolutely fascinating movies. It's amazing. Like they worked in, of course, they worked in the World War II aspect, and then they worked in like the biblical reference aspect, and it all just. I think that's what was missing in Temple of Doom was it kind of went into this weird kind of Indian
Action.
Yeah, it just kind of it took kind of a right turn to see how we'd react, and I think the historical aspects that they took, in it versus creating a fictional history, they just added the feel of the first and third versions. But that was another Spielberg home run, and if you notice, of course, Star Wars franchise included, Harrison Ford was in a lot of the top money makers of that period. I think he had 6 of 10 at one point.
Big actor.
Yeah.
Big actor. So, they actually did a remix to the Indiana Jones, National Treasure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nick Cage is no Harrison Ford or
not at all.
No. He's not Superman either.
Oh my God! Please no. Please.
He was close. He was close to being Superman back in the 80s.
He was close.
Mm-hmm.
I think they figured if you owned an Action 1, you could be Superman. I guess is how they were looking at it.
Yeah.
So I heard somebody stole it though. I heard somebody broke in his house and
somebody wiped out his collection. But he's been seen recently going to before everything got real with the COVID and everything. But he was seen doing some serious shopping at some of the bigger cons.
Okay, good.
So he's apparently buying back in.
Good.
I know he was kind of struggling for a little while because he kept spending all his money.
Yeah, well, on comics.
Yeah. Well, he also, if I'm not mistaken, bought a tomb for his death, and it was like a pyramid or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, then. All right, there, buddy.
So somebody just said, talk about John Carpenter's Thing. Who was that? Kurt Russell?
Honestly, I don't remember that movie.
Yeah, Thing was Kurt Russell. He went over to Alaska, and it was like this. It's almost like this weird alien that was like taking possession of different bodies and stuff. I haven't seen the Thing in a long time, but it was very, very creepy. Like once I see Thing, I just wanted to burn down everything around me and rebuild because you just never knew where that thing was coming from.
Carpenter was another one of those guys that just had that knack with the movies he made, because obviously, he had Halloween, that's where we met Mr. Michael Myers.
Yes, sir.
He did, Andy's bona fide mentioned, the Thing, but like Escape from New York, Snake Plissken.
Yeah, Snake Plissken was great.
He just created like these like just ultra memorable characters, he and in his direction and everything. It was just Carpenter's another one of those guys that he's if he's not on the director 80s, the 80s director Rushmore, he's got to be darn close.
Yes. Didn't he do Night of the Living Dead and all that kind of stuff?
I know a lot of the Living Dead stuff was George Romero.
Yeah.
George Romero. Okay.
My first thought was George Perez. I'm like, that's not right.
John Carpenter did.
Not quite.
He did They Live with
yeah.
Right?
I think he did with Roddy Piper, and I was also going to mention Keith David.
Oh my God, one of the most
from The Thing and from The Thing and
They
from
Live is the bubblegum. Movie.
I came to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
There you go.
I mean, that fight that they had just to get Keith David to put on a pair of sunglasses, that was great.
That fight scene took a month of rehearsal, so
yeah,
that was pretty intense fighting scene. So.
I'm gonna say Roddy Piper called that one.
Keith David is one of the most unknown, underrated actors of our time, because when you think about it, he's a voice of Goliath and the Gargoyles. He does that voice. He did the voice of Spawn, on HBO. He was in Chronicles of Riddick. He was also in Pitch Black. He's just, like I said, I never knew his name. I never know his name until somebody says Keith, and I'm like, oh, Keith David. He's one of those actors that but you just can't remember their name a lot of times, And that voice,
there's a lot of actors like that, and it's sad that there's actors that are never the guy or the girl, but they are right there in so many movies.
So many movies.
I want to say Netflix had a series called "Hey, You're That Guy from ...
Yeah,
for real.
It featured action, like one of the guy who played kind of the heel sheriff and the heel correctional facility officer and what was it, Prison Break. Okay. He was that guy where it's like he had this success, but the most he ever got was like, you're that guy from,
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people are like that.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, I know this guy, but where do I know him from?
Yeah. Yes.
I think
had a lot of character actors.
I think if I was an actor, I would want to be that guy. I don't think I'd want to be that top level guy because you just can't go anywhere and do anything. But if you're that next level, you can go do stuff. Every now and again, you'll get noticed. But for the most part, you can slide by with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Paychecks say otherwise, though.
I mean, you go from making $20 million a movie down to one, but still, your resume is huge.
So when you talk about the 80s, how did you guys feel about Police Academy?
Oh, good God, Steve Gutenberg, you're kidding. Police Academy, Tackleberry?
Officer Mahoney.
That's it. It's like, holy, even when Bobcat Goldthwait joined, Police Academy, I got to see the watered down versions. I didn't get to really enjoy the theater experience of it, so a lot of the stuff that I saw Police Academy, was mildly edited, and some of the raunchier stuff was missing.
Oh yeah, there was some raunchy stuff in there.
Yeah, but I tell you, it's like probably in my top 5 comedy franchises of the 80s for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Bubba Smith was in there.
Yeah.
What was it? Was the guy's name that did all the voices? Was it Michael Winslow?
I know he talking about the
Michael Winslow.
Michael Winslow. I mean, I'm like, holy cow! How does he do this?
Yeah.
That was the fatal flaw with Police Academies was the running gag that got played out.
Yeah.
Don't move, dirtbag. The funny voices and all of that stuff. It was like so freaking funny in the beginning, and by the end, it's like, I've seen this already. I know the little squeaky voiced woman's gonna eventually scream, "Don't move, dirtbag."
Yeah.
I think that was going to the well a couple times too many. But you take the first 3 is
classics.
Absolutely. Classics. I mean, and you watch it and sure it looks dated, but you still laugh. That was another thing. I just watched it. I've been enjoying a lot of 80s movies here over the last couple of nights. Caddyshack was on last.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Very good movie.
Yeah, we will not mention Caddyshack too. That is one of the worst movies ever.
You can't hit a home run every time. Sometimes you get caught on a pop fly behind the catcher. I mean,
I'm sorry. When you have a golf course in one movie, the second movie it's a golf course, but it's really a golf course putt. It is awful. But I mean, Rodney Dangerfield back in the day, oh my gosh, is great.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about sequels that really suck, I bought the Mannequin 1 and Mannequin 2 together. Mannequin 1 just took me back to my childhood in the 80s. Tony Kattan. I mean, not Tony Kattan, sorry. The girl from Sex and the City and Big Trouble in Little China. She was the first Mannequin.
Wow. Kim Cattrall.
Kim Cattrall.
Yeah.
And the second Mannequin, I was just like, what is this?
What's the guy's name that played the played the gay guy in that movie? What was his name?
Oh, the black guy. Yeah, he's such a good actor. I forget his name, but he was in Designing Women.
Yeah, Designing Women. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
He's been in a ton of things. He's another one of those guys. It's like that guy.
Yeah.
Things.
Never know his name. Somebody had asked a question. It went away. I can't see.
Oh no! I just clicked on it. That was my friend Dennis. He was he said Caddyshack is my all-time number 1.
Okay. His name is Meshach Taylor.
Yeah, Meshach. Yeah, Meshach Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah. He's playing in a lot of movies, and he's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
He's such a funny guy. So.
Well, that's the cool thing. You mention a name, and then all of a sudden it's just like, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, one of the biggest actors of the '80s too. You got to remember, of all time, Eddie Murphy.
I was about to mention a movie with him. All right, what movie do you got? Are you picking for Eddie?
For me, my favorite movie of all time has always been Coming to America. It's just that movie came along when I was kind of like in my adolescence, and I remember a summer where my brother watched the movie over and over and over, so I could repeat the movie from the beginning of the scene when they're singing to the end. I know that movie better than I know the Bible. That's how good I know that movie.
I mean, when Eddie gets on that balcony and he starts yelling and starts singing, and everybody's like, "Shut up!"
To be loved. To be loved.
Samuel Jackson's first movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, when he came in McDowell's and tried to rob
him. We have the golden arches. They have golden arcs.
Yeah, that movie just in the culture, you will always hear a Coming to America reference. No matter like, even to this day, you still hear stuff like, like if somebody does poorly on stage, you hear 3 people clap. You hear people saying "sexual chocolate." Like,
mic drop. Sexual chocolate. Okay, I have to say this. Somebody posted something the other day, and they had a picture from Coming to America, and I can't remember exactly what they said. And my quote was, "Is the royal penis clean?"
The royal penis is clean, Your Highness. Oh my God. Then he just says, I'm like, wow, this movie just, wow. But yeah, Eddie Murphy, like, I recently watched the Beverly Hills Cop franchise, which was pretty cool. And I'm starting on the first 48 hours, I'm sorry, with Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought the first one was really, really good. The second one I didn't think was quite as good, but the first one really, really loved.
What's my first
48 hours.
God, I gotta stop watching that channel. First 48.
What was that movie? Gosh, I had it in my head and now I forgot it. Oh, we had Trading Places.
Trading Places.
To me, that's my favorite Eddie Murphy movie. I absolutely love Trading Places.
Mm-hmm. He actually paid homage to it in Coming to America when he handed the homeless guys the money.
Yeah.
Mortimer.
The Dukes.
To me, it's the obvious answer, but you just mentioned it, Beverly Hills Cop, the first one. Because I think my problem, born in 75, so you get into like Eddie's heyday, which was right after like Richard Pryor, and Eddie did Raw, and that was another one of those things where it kind of put Eddie on the parental radar.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very much a... it wasn't Saturday Night Live Eddie that you're going to get to see in the movie.
My God. Buckwheat.
Looking for none.
James Brown, gonna get in the hot tub.
That is one of my favorites right there, the hot tub one. I love that one.
Did he ever get in it?
Yeah, he did at the very end. And he took that robe off. He's got these tiny little trunks on. I was like, yeah, dang.
Just the one-liners in Beverly Hills Cop, though, man. It was like banana in the tailpipe.
Banana in the tailpipe.
And now that I'm old enough, I'm like, whoa. Okay, now I know what he was really. It's almost like a double entendre there,
Yeah.
And, it's but Beverly Hills Cop, that kind of opened the discovery door for Mr. Murphy and everything.
Yeah. I think he did a pretty good job in Nutty Professor too. To take
Nutty Professor, yeah.
To play, he first did it in Coming to America. Him and Arsenio Hall played multiple characters, but to play a whole family sitting down at a table having a conversation, it's oh my God! The first Nutty Professor, I watched that.
Colon cleansing.
Yeah. Talk about colon cleanse. I'll clean my colon right now.
Yeah, that's another guy that just dropped off the face of the earth, though. Arsenio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was just on top of the world, and then it's just like, where did he go?
Where did he
happened
go?
to him?
Yeah. From what I heard, he got in trouble with the LGBT community. he wouldn't really feature them on his show or whatever. And by the time he, made that turn to kind of be more political, it was too late. They had already, targeted to shut down that show.
Dang.
That makes sense then, yeah.
But you mentioned Richard Pryor, and I mean, you got to go with Harlem Nights.
Oh my God!
I love that movie.
The Champion.
Yeah.
The Champion kept stuttering. See, what?
Mike Tyson. He shot her in the pinky toe.
Della Reese. Oh, that was the funniest fight scene ever.
You got Red Fox in there. Gosh, what a great cast!
His brother Charlie Murphy. You had
Charlie Murphy.
You had Robin Harrison. Oh yeah. Oh man, rest in peace to Charlie Murphy.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when they said he had cancer and then he was dead already. I
think it was leukemia actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ate him up slowly. Like he was doing comedy on tour, and everybody kept saying like, "What's wrong?" But he wanted to kind of keep it secret, so he passed away. Peacefully, and we found out what happened after he passed away.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, so sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
Man, gosh, I love Harlem Nights.
So me and you were talking about before we got on, the Gremlin franchise. Classic, huh?
I love the first one. You know what? Actually, I really like the second one too. It's a good Christmas movie.
Oh my God! When they start singing New York, New York.
You can tell the mark. Like, okay, right now we're going through COVID-19, and it seems like 2020 is just a throwaway year. But when memes are popping up, featuring, a little Mogwai getting ready to get doused under the sink, going, "This is next." When you enter into culture,
yes.
When you become like synonymous with like a disaster, in the making, that tells you right there what kind of mark your movie is made.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the very first Gremlins, when they're in the movie theater scene.
Oh my God! What was that? Hi ho! Hi ho! Hi ho! Hi ho!
Okay. I gotta watch that again. It's been a long time since I've seen Gremlins.
Yeah, it's classic. Stripe, yum yum.
Who is the leads in that?
I don't know his name.
Like the woman, was the woman? It wasn't Phoebe Cates, was it?
The girl, she played in a bunch of movies. We got Google right here.
We got Ginter is joining us.
I'm on it, already on it.
What's up, Josh?
Phoebe Cates and
Sir Ginter.
Zach Galligan.
How you doing?
What's up?
It's a Ginter.
It's Juice.
It's
Juice.
It's the Juice.
So we're talking about Gremlins right now.
Oh, cool.
Classic from the 80s.
Yeah.
What's Gremlins? I've never heard of that movie.
It's what your face.
Oh, Josh. You young whippersnapper, you might as well just log off because we talking about the right now, man.
I'm not that young.
Yeah, you're mid. What? You're in the 30s, so I mean.
Just
I'm almost in the 40s.
Hey, it was Phoebe Cates. I'm smart.
That's Phoebe Cates.
Speaking of Phoebe Cates.
Phoebe Cates was in.
What's her
Who
movie?
didn't have a little crush on that female? Like at some point.
I may or may not have watched that movie and paused it.
What movie was that when she showed her breasts?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Okay.
And exactly 15 minutes and 12 seconds. No, I don't.
What was that? That was Judge Reinhold, wasn't it?
Judge Reinhold, yeah.
He knows the minutes.
I made that up. I don't know what that is. Someone fact check.
What about 80s sci-fi? Are we talking about what's it called with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Sharon Stone? Total Recall. Was that 80s? Oh, that's 90s.
That's 80s.
Look, there's a little subgenre of that science fiction stuff that featured Schwarzenegger. You had Total Recall. You had The Running Man.
Total Recall was
that's another
1990.
Stephen King one.
Total Recall 1990.
It was 1990.
Wow.
You know what?
That
I'll
counts.
give that because it features Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he is our '80s dude. So
Yeah.
you know what? Total Recall can fit right in there.
Yeah,
Because
we'll let it slide.
yeah.
Total Recall. You got he did Conan the Barbarian. You know,
Mhm.
Red Sonja.
I think those are both in the 70s, I believe.
Yeah, Conan is pretty much back there. But I remember the second one. I actually saw in the theater, so I know I was of age, and that had
Oh.
what was the tall basketball player? That say he slept with Wilt Chamberlain. Say he slept with over 1,000 women. It won't even,
Did you see the Saturday Night Live skit with MC Hammer?
no, I didn't see it. No.
He's got like these long like wooden legs, and he's in a bed, and like this woman comes in, and then they show her leaving, and then you see her start crying because she left, and then another woman comes in.
Wilt Chamberlain. Oh my god.
I think they said it was like 20-some thousand women. I think is what I heard.
Yeah,
Like,
he really tried. He really tried that one. I was like 1,000. Mine wouldn't even work anymore.
God, the first Terminator, man.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my god.
I love my Terminator movies.
Schwarzenegger, he was a definer. You know, the Predator.
My favorite movie of all time.
Hercules in New York.
Yes, I love that movie.
What
It's
movie
a
was
70s movie. Hercules in New York.
that? Oh my god.
I mean, my favorite scene in that is when him and the girl are walking along, and there's a poster of Hercules there. He's like, "This is not Hercules." And he takes his shirt off and starts flexing.
I definitely love Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that
Is that
the
a
Predator
bubble
was
pipe?
definitely right up there with. That might be probably in my top 5
Yeah, it's in my top 5.
80s movies for sure. You know,
Which
Predator.
one?
Predator.
Predator?
Yeah.
Get to the chopper.
Yeah. Get to the chopper. I mean,
Jesse the
If
Body
it bleeds,
Ventura.
we can kill it.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yep.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Yep.
God, who else?
Bill-
Like
Go ahead.
Tex Ritter, I think he was in it too.
Bill Duke, Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers.
So
Apollo Creed, as we know him.
yeah, actually, Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be the Predator. Did you just imagine the Predator doing splits and? But he actually,
Wasn't the director of The Last Lethal Weapon, or he did Iron Man 3, directed Iron Man 3. He's in it. He's
okay.
one of the guys.
Who's
one
Jon
of
Favreau?
Huh?
Are you talking Favreau?
No, not Favreau. Favreau did first Iron Man. This is Iron Man 3. I can't remember. It's like, I think his last name is Shaner,
Okay.
something like that. But he's in it. And it's funny because you see him in Predator and you look at him now, you're like, that's not the same dude. It's weird.
I think Danny Glover did a okay job with part 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not touching 1, but it's still a good movie off the simple fact of the last scene when the elder Predator comes. Like, I thought that was so cool. Then you first saw the xenomorph skeleton. Like, that part of the movie actually made up for everything that, you know. I mean, you know, Danny Glover did his thing, but part 1 was just in the jungle, just right at it. It was just such a raw and gritty movie. And, you know, you didn't get to see the Predator right away. You saw him later on in the movie. So,
Yeah. I mean, the way he camouflaged and stuff, I mean, that visual back then was amazing.
classic.
Well, it just got that line, you know, you one ugly.
What up?
That's it.
And then the creepy laugh at the end when he's about to blow everything up. He's
Yeah.
laughing.
I was like, that's a Joker laugh right there.
So when you talk about Predator, you gotta go segue into like RoboCop. Like
Absolutely.
RoboCop.
Drop it. Peter Weller.
Peter Weller.
Yep.
Great
And
movie.
you know, now of course the parallels with our current like socio-political climate, you know, I see the parallels between RoboCop and what people are trying to claim, you know, coming to fruition, you know, where the rich are taking advantage of poor areas to make the police obsolete, and they will be the ones that control the security for. And it's like, okay, is this really happening, or are people just actually reading too much in it? It kind of makes you think a little bit.
Yeah.
Not trying to get political or anything, but
no. But that would be that's kind of like, that's why the movies nowadays don't touch the movies that we grew up with, because the movies we grew up with made us think and not, kind of like be like the group Rage Against the Machine, kind of like, don't buy into what society is saying. I think a lot of directors back then were ahead of their time, like RoboCop. I never saw that, but that is right. They kind of took the police force out and was trying to put robots in the police place, and but that big barbecue grill with 2 legs didn't work, did it?
Well, they were trying to privatize the police. They were trying to make it private. It wasn't a public service. It was run by a company.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference. And they wanted to go on strike. They weren't actually getting rid of the police. The police were going on strike because of all this.
Okay.
So, yeah, like William's right. There's similarities, but it's not exactly right. It does make you think.
Yeah, that's how a lot of.
But I mean, RoboCop is amazing. My kids, Fred, you've never seen my kids before, but they're 10, 9, 11, 10, and 9. Oof. And they've seen RoboCop. I mean, I've let them watch it. And for me, being an artist, telling them how they made the movie, like this is a stop motion puppet, this is a matte painting. What's a matte painting? Okay, this is what this is. Okay. The set goes to here. The rest of it's the painting. Someone took the time to paint something to look realistic, and it blows their minds because all they see now is CGI stuff, which isn't bad, but it's just to think that someone took the time, took a brush, and paint, and made this, and it looks real.
Yeah,
it blows people's minds, and these are prosthetics. This guy blowing up is not actually him. They actually made a dummy and blew him up, or whatever the case may be. But that's what's so cool about older movies, is just that magic behind it, how they made it and how they made it look awesome.
Yeah.
And then you look at stuff now, and it's just kind of like, we didn't have the money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So-and-so had $2 million and made this movie, and it looks 100 times better than your piece of crap.
I'm glad he really didn't shoot that guy in the pelvic area.
You know what?
He shot through the dress and hit the guy in the pelvic area. So
I like it how he called his name. Everybody called him Dick, and he just to insult him. He's like, Richard.
Red
Foreman as one of the big bad guys.
He's a bad guy. Hold up, which
Can
one?
You fly, Bobby?
Okay, so that's the guy with the glasses. Okay, yeah. He was the bad guy. What tripped me out, he was a bad guy in Total Recall, too. I'm like, can we get another bad guy for these movies? Like,
but see, that's the thing. He's that guy, hey, I know you from somewhere. Of course,
that
Red
70s show.
Was, the big deal. But before that, that's just what he did.
Oh, my God, he is in that 70s show. Wow.
Oh, and the guy, Bobby, that he threw out of the van, he's the dad in Twin Peaks. He's the killer. Spoiler alert.
Can you fly, Bobby?
Yeah.
Why did that guy have the high-pitched voice? Like,
no, Clarence, no.
The high-pitched laugh. Like, I was like, why does the black guy have to have a high-pitched laugh? That was so... I'll buy that. You remember the I'll buy that for $1?
That is Running Man. That's probably one of my favorites. Richard Dawson as the bad guy.
Another Jesse Bobby Ventura.
I got fascinated with that when I heard that was written by Stephen King.
Yeah.
Stephen King. It's weird his theatrical success. He's done some big stuff.
Yeah.
But the biggest stuff he did is not the stuff that you read Pet Sematary, and obviously they made the movie for that, and The Stand, and of course The Shining, But like Shawshank Redemption, Rita Hayworth.
Oh yeah.
It's like some of those little novellas that he did, and like Four Seasons. I think that had the Running Man and Rita Hayworth in it.
Yeah.
And those movies, they're like kind of 80s staples. If you want an example of something that's perfectly 80s.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think it was in the 90s, but I remember watching.
No,
I think that
it was 90s.
Probably like
It was like right there.
Yeah, I remember watching it because it came in parts. You couldn't see the whole thing. Like, I think they played 4 parts, and it came on every other Sunday. It came on every Sunday. So I remember being sleepy in school because I used to watch it, Living Color, Married with Children, and then it would come on. And that TV version of it is such a classic. Like, I like the new one now.
I like the old one better.
Of course, it's
with
John
Ritter.
What's his name? Tim Curry, who plays.
Yeah. Tim Curry's great.
Oh my God! When you talk about 80s, come on now, look at that cast. You had the guy from Night Court, the judge from Night Court. You had the lady who played Lois Lane, or was it Lana Lane? She played Lana Lane in the Superman movies. You just had so many classic actors in there. So I love the old one with Tim Curry.
All right, now you mentioned Tim Curry. Have you seen Legend?
Oh, he's a double, isn't he?
Yeah, he played this. I mean, to me, when I saw that, I'm like, that is my nightmare of what Satan looks like.
It really looks like, yeah.
I mean, it is insane. I mean, he's got huge horns, and he's got like the goat legs.
Oh yeah,
it's unbelievable. That voice, oh my gosh! And that
I'm sorry,
really,
I still
early
see
Tom
the devil
Cruise.
with Al Pacino.
Devil's Advocate.
That was that.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of man.
Keanu Reeves, man. Oh my God, I just watched that the other day, and it was such an eerie feeling. I was like, you know what? Let me just turn this off and go to work, and then I'll watch it when I'm off. Al Pacino played that role. That movie actually, it hits a spiritual side of you. It's very well done.
That monologue at the end, where the Pacino gave while the bad guy, explaining his dastardly plan,
Yes,
the
sir.
monologue he gave is
sir.
like,
Yes, sir.
this is some real stuff here.
Yes, sir.
I need to rewatch that one.
How can you mention Legend and not mention one of the biggest actors of the 80s in that movie?
I just did.
You did.
Did you say Tom Cruise?
I did say Tom Cruise. I said that's one of his first movies.
Cocktail.
Yeah.
Whatever. What was the one when he was in his underwear and he slid across the floor?
Risky Business.
Risky Business. I mean, Tom Cruise, I didn't know.
Like a lot of them.
What girl is
Gun?
Top Gun.
What girl in school didn't have a crush on Tom Cruise? I was like, hey, I'm sexy too,
Look at me in my underwear. Never mind, don't.
It was all about Tom Cruise and what's her name? New Kids on the Block back then. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Until Brad Pitt came along and elbowed him out of the way.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes you just got to say, what the? What was that guy's name? Booger Presley from Revenge of the Nerds?
Revenge of the Nerds, yeah.
Yeah, his best friend.
I feel like we're missing some Tom Cruise movies, though.
We're definitely because Rain Man. How about mine?
I love me some Rain Man.
Dustin Hoffman, I think, was his brother.
Yep, I think that was the first Academy Award movie, Academy Award winner, that I was just like totally behind. Mm-hmm. Because usually you think Oscars are like artsy fartsy stuff, like English Patient. I'm so pissed off that I lost that time of my life watching The English Patient. But you watch Rain Man, it's like, how many times, in all honesty, we'll just talk Oscars for like 2 seconds, but count how many times you watched like an Oscar winner, and it's like, man, I am so glad I watched that. That movie has made me feel like I have a better understanding of what is good. It's not many times. Some really hit the mark, but I don't know what the Oscar people are looking for, because
that's why I like the Candid Film Festival. You find a lot of the grittier new directors there, because we talk about Tom Cruise. He brought in one of my favorite movies. He saw a movie with at the Cannes Film Festival. It was Ray Liotta. It's called Narc. If you ever seen Narc, it's shot so different from every other movie. It's like the lighting in Narc and stuff. Are you guys familiar with Narc? Have you seen it?
I don't believe
I
I
haven't
have.
seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's with Ray Liotta, and I don't want to give you the plot of the movie, but if you get a chance, watch it. Tom Cruise saw it at the Cannes Film Festival, and he said this has to be a nationally released movie, and so he put all his money behind it, and it did pretty good. But it has Ray Liotta from Goodfellas. The plot basically is it's a narcotics officer. He gets into a little trouble, so he takes time off. But then it's a case that makes him go back on the field, and that's all I'm saying. It has Busta Rhymes in it and stuff like that. So is Goodfellas an 80s movie or that's 90s?
Yeah, I
That's
think
probably 90s.
Goodfellas got to be close to 80s. I'll double check real quick.
Goodfellas and Casino.
Now, Casino
Goodfellas,
is
1990.
Which one is 1990?
Goodfellas.
Okay, yeah.
Casino.
We can try to
95.
count 90. We can count 1990 as 80.
So we're going 81 through 90.
Yeah,
Might as well.
exactly.
I mean, we're trying to keep. We're trying to go up to when Tim Burton bust on the scene.
There you go. And, okay, one of my Bonafide, he mentioned that Paige's favorite movie is quite honestly my favorite Christmas movie. That would be Die Hard.
Yeah, even though it did come out in the middle of the summer, you're correct.
Yeah. Come on,
Hans
that
Gruber.
brought on Run DMC, Christmas in Hollis, Queens.
The famous quote from that movie: "Yippee-ki-yay, mother."
Dude, that movie had so many surreal moments though, like when they shot out all the glass and he was barefooted.
Yeah.
You know, it's like who
Shoots them Finsta. What?
It had Carl
The
Winslow
guy.
in there.
Yeah,
Carl Winslow before Family Matters.
Yep.
that's
The
right.
father.
He's been a police officer in tons of movies.
Everything. I mean, he plays officer in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted
And,
that guy to be my dad so bad. I had a great father, don't get me wrong, but Carl had it going on.
Carl, yeah, he was a cool dad until you had Urkel come over. So
I mean, I remember the other police officer, the white guy. He was from what was it? Breakfast Club.
okay.
You mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Oh, yeah, he was the principal. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the jerk in all those movies back in the day.
Man, I forgot that. Golly.
I saw something on the making of Die Hard. I don't know how I saw it, but they were saying that. I was actually watching the movie, and at the end of the movie, they had like behind the scenes. They were saying the bad guy actually had to, like, I think he had to mask his accent a little bit, but he still had an accent, and they really didn't want to go with him because I think he was like into Broadway, but they still got him as a bad guy.
Alan Rickman. That was one of his first movies.
Yeah, they
And we miss
they
him.
were kind of. Go ahead.
I said we miss him too because he passed away last year, I think, or year before
I
that.
didn't know that.
Yeah, Alan Rickman. Yeah, Rickman or Rickman? I don't know.
I know what they were saying. They were saying it was hard to take Bruce Willis and make him a believable action actor.
Yep.
Because he came
Moonlighting.
moonlighted. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
But they said one thing about Reichman. The hardest thing they had to work on with him, one was accent, but the other was him just holding a gun. He said he had kind of a limp wrist when he was holding a gun.
But you know, the cool thing about, I think, the thing, like you mentioned, the moonlighting aspect and how Bruce Willis almost did, I think that made him more relatable. Because strangely enough, he was like, you know, I could see myself in this situation. Like, I can't see myself being like Schwarzenegger or Stallone.
Yeah.
You know, just like this super jacked, you know, holding an M60 in each hand, shooting at everybody. But
I know. Well, we need a bald man to represent.
Yeah, I'm a little sunburned today,
And that's why we have The Rock.
Bruce Willis, you know, he was probably the most believable. Him and, well, Ballet Swayze, maybe not, but like I say, you watch like Roadhouse.
Ballet Swayze.
And yeah, his perfectly beautiful kicks that he would do in Roadhouse, you know.
Yeah.
And then that Peter made famous on Family Guy. Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse. Oh my God, Roadhouse! It has so many people in the background that I really didn't realize until I got older. Like I spotted a lot of people in that Roadhouse. I think it was a couple of wrestlers. Yeah, it's a couple of wrestlers in there and everything. So yeah, classic.
Roadhouse.
I've actually not seen Roadhouse.
The what?
I haven't seen Roadhouse.
Oh, you gotta watch
a movie about stuff. No spoilers.
Next to Ken, that was another good one. If Patrick Swayze did Next to Ken, I highly recommend that one.
Yeah,
Dirty Dancing.
See, I actually did not have Dirty Dancing on my list because I didn't want to talk about it.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Nobody. Baby in the corner.
So what about?
I got to be honest. I really like the movie.
I mean, it's not. I grew up with an older sister, so I used to have to watch that. I used to have to watch like all the girly movies, like 16 Candles, whatever.
But have you watched Beaches?
Oh,
I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry.
I've actually not watched that.
I don't want to cry. I'm at the point where I'm happy in life. I don't need beaches will have you like literally in
Beaches
tears.
will make you realize how much you've lost in life. You know,
Yes. It's a very good movie. You'll be like, I have something going on in my eyes. I don't know why it's wet.
I cut her 3 days ago. She's kidding me.
I have to watch that movie sparingly. I can't watch it. I have to watch that movie maybe like once every 2 years because
I feel like I need to watch this movie now.
Yeah, it's real good.
dude, it's a friendship. It's like one of those. It's a movie about life and friendship, man. Is what it is.
Who's in it?
And, it spans decades in a life, you know.
It was very good movie. Very good movie. So when you talk about 80s, our childhood, I think people won't forgive me if I don't bring up Never Ending Story. Are you guys familiar with that one?
There should be some guests at Big Lick Comic Con from Never Ending Story, if I'm not mistaken.
Aru and somebody else. No, Atreyu.
The horse is going to be
there.
The horse. I'll tell you what, that when I watched it as a kid, the flying dog, his back, they look like scales.
Alcor.
Yeah.
It creeped me out to no end.
Yeah, it did. It was really creepy. Like, is this a dog or a dragon? What is it?
Yeah.
So you're creeped out about that and not the guy eating the worms?
No, that was fine.
The boogeyman's fine.
Man, I don't understand.
Yeah, when you talk about like 80s movies like The Never Ending Story, I know a cult classic that a lot of people haven't seen was a Disney movie called Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, I love that movie.
I haven't seen it.
Love that movie.
Really good movie.
So 80s.
Where's my pen?
It's weird, like the modern generation. If they look at it, you've got your Harry Potter, and you've got like things like that. We had Never Ending Story, and then of course Princess Bride.
Yes, Princess Bride.
Gosh, I love Princess Bride.
Andre the Giant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, just everything about Princess Bride was great. Just how many times have you just sat around just dropping one-liners from Princess Bride?
Yeah.
That and Batman 66 are the two movies where you can just like, if you start dropping lines, it just becomes a matter of seeing who runs out of lines first.
Dropping lines. Now he's telling a drug story over here.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I mean, gosh, that movie was so good. I actually have a poster of the Breakfast Club. Listen to me. Yeah, Princess Bride. I actually have one of those over there. And I'll tell you what, it's the hardest.
Breakfast Club wouldn't surprise me, by the way.
No, really should. Don't you forget about me. But
don't you?
I should. It's the hardest thing to do to get a grown man who has never seen The Princess Bride to talk him into watching that movie.
Well, it's got that connotation. It's for girls, and it's not.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's that movie that like to borrow a line from The Devil's Advocate. It's the you never see coming. You know, it's one that is one of those movies where when you watch it, it's like I am so freaking glad that I sat down and watched that movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and
Right.
I remember my first experience watching it. It was one of my teachers in junior high school. We watched it over the course of 2 periods, you know, through 2 or 3 periods, and it was one of those when it ended. It's like, man, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
We don't get to watch anymore. You know, Princess
Give me a
Bride-
line.
Go back to school.
It had my hero in it, Andre the Giant, and knowing
Andre.
that he was in so much pain towards the end of his life. Just knowing how much pain he was in. It was a scene where she dropped into his arms, and they literally had to have her on cables because he was so weak back then that he couldn't even like hold her up. So, but good classic
Old
movie.
Buttercup. What's your
I
favorite
don't
line in
know.
that movie? Give me one good line.
My favorite line in Princess Bride?
Mm-hmm.
Too many of them. I mean, and then too, I haven't seen Princess Bride in about 4 or 5 years. I can't find it. I have to go to Amazon to actually get it. That's the only way I'm going to get it. That's the only. Go ahead.
I think my favorite line was, "He's mostly dead." That always cracks me up. He's mostly dead.
I think probably my favorite scene was the sword fighting scene between Dread Pirate Roberts
Mhm.
and Inigo Montoya.
Yeah.
When they first met, it's like, you're wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I have news
What
for
you don't know is I'm not
I'm
left-handed.
not left-handed, you know. And then he switched his sword hand, but you know, it's like, I mean, you've got the obvious, you know, you killed my father, prepare to die, you know, inconceivable, you know, that word you keep using. I do not think it means what you think it means. Just different things that make you laugh,
Yeah.
you know.
I use that a lot, actually. I do not think that word means what you think it means.
Then, like you say, Andre the Giant, you know, it's like, I am the Brute Squad.
You couldn't understand nothing he was saying in the movie. Need to be subtitled.
Let's see. Where's it at right here? Again, this is one of my favorite movies. Again, Bonafide. He said The Goonies.
The Goonies?
And
Oh,
he
man.
said,
Wow.
Wow.
we were
Cyndi Lauper?
Goonies age.
Cyndi Lauper?
Yeah.
Thanos?
Yep.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Thanos,
He played Big Brother in that.
Thanos and Cable.
The Truffle Shuffle.
The Truffle Shuffle.
Baby.
Well, I had the kids do the truffle shuffle to get into the house.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys.
That's it.
NFL football player John Matuzak played Sloth.
Who plays Saw? I never really looked that up and saw it in real life. Like, who plays him?
Yeah, he played for the Oakland Raiders for a long time.
Who was?
John Matuzak.
Okay. So he's actually a. Okay.
Then
Cyndi.
Corey Feldman. He was Mal.
That's Sean Astin.
Oh man.
Sean Astin.
All right.
Like every few minutes, he had to puff on that inhaler.
Oh my God! I just thought about the
Data?
movie, one of the best movies of the '80s. Since you said Corey, it popped up in my mind.
I think
Freaking
I know where
Lost
you're going.
Boys.
I hope. Oh yeah,
Lost Boys.
I thought you would say "Learning to Drive."
No,
Lost Boys.
Yeah,
dude.
Because
I love that movie. Kiefer Sutherland.
Yep.
Oh,
The
great
Lost
movie.
Boys is probably my top '80s movie
it got
because it had a perfect soundtrack.
Mhm.
It had the two Coreys, and then it had like the teenage. So it's like they were, well, with the exception of the vampires thing, they were us.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if
You know vampires in
older,
your
you were
neighborhood?
part of the teenage crowd. If you were younger, you were part of the young crowd. You know, and
Mhm.
but like Alex Winter, you know, Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
He was Kiefer Sutherland. what was it, Michael Patrick? Was that
The
Yeah.
dad.
yeah, just like everybody was in that movie, and you wanted to be like one of the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Josh? Josh, have you seen the Lost Boys?
Yeah, but it's not one of my favorites. Sorry.
But
I'm sorry.
By the way, I'm digging your shirt, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Shirtless dude on the beach playing saxophone at a bonfire.
oh yeah,
It's amazing.
all that baby oil.
That's it. He had the little alto sax, and I mean, he was hammering it, man.
Yeah, that's a cool bombshell shirt. I like that.
Hey.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I can't remember when I saw Lost Boys. I want to say I might have saw part of it with a friend, but I don't know. I think it was Kiefer Sutherland that kind of put me off to that movie. It's just kind of like, I don't dig that dude.
You don't like Keith or something?
Oh my gosh.
At the time, I like him now, but
Yeah,
at the time as a kid, he freaked me out.
Yeah, his father, Donald Sutherland.
Yeah,
Donald is good.
I think I first saw Donald in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original one.
Wow.
Have y'all seen that? The original.
I saw that. I just, it's been so long ago. Oh my gosh.
Like that's where I first saw Donald. But Kiefer Sutherland, like, he became one of my favorite actors. He's one of those guys that you can give him any role because he played a racist in what was that movie with Sandra Bullock and yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Time to Kill. Good God,
Time to
what
Kill.
a powerful movie, man.
Yeah, him and his dad was in the movie, which was a trip. So,
my first experience with Donald Sutherland was Backdraft.
Backdraft.
Oh, yeah.
Firefighters. Yeah.
my recent encounter with Donald Sutherland is The Dirty Dozen.
Oh,
Yeah.
really good.
That's going back in time a little, man.
Oh yeah, it is. It was. I was talking to an older gentleman at work, and he had brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, we can watch that." And the whole family sat down and watched it. My kids were just nothing was going to distract them from that movie. But when they were going through the line at the beginning of the movie, showing all the soldiers all the prisoners they were going to have go out and do this mission, and they got to Donald Sutherland, I looked at my wife, I was like, "You recognize him?" She's like, "Yeah, but I don't know from where." And it took her a minute, and she's like, "Oh, he's in Hunger Games, the president in the Hunger Games." And she goes over and tells the kids, they're like, "No way, that's the same dude." I'm like, "Yeah, he's just super young."
True story about Dirty Dozen with me. Around the time a popular Patrick Swayze movie was out, here we are in 5th grade. You know, my mom's like, "What do y'all want to rent?" Me and my brother both were like, "Yeah, we want Dirty Dancing," and she comes home with Dirty Dozen. So, that's how I ended up, you know. But I loved the movie. I thought it was a great movie. So maybe that was just a happy accident. Who knows?
She saved you on that one.
No problem. Well, I don't know. I had the time of my life, man.
All right. How about you guys remember Stand By Me?
Oh, I love that movie.
That's a
Yet
great.
another Stephen King hidden masterpiece.
Yeah. With River Phoenix was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell, yeah.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, I just seen that for $5 in Walmart. Walmart is starting to, I guess they understand we're going through quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So for the DVD collectors, it's pretty good because every other month they'll shuffle in new $5 movies. I saw Stand By Me, but I end up buying the classic Lean on Me with what's his name? Morgan Freeman in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I end up buying Lean on Me. I actually just sat and
Really
watched.
good movie.
And my daughter was like, she was first time seeing it. She was so into that movie. I told her it's based off a true story too, so pretty good.
I think Morgan's probably my favorite actor.
Morgan Freeman?
Like, I think if you go and you look at it like a lot, I want that man to narrate my life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, that
Yes,
man,
sir.
like some of the like most poignant moments. You know, like of course Shawshank Redemption. You know, some of the most poignant moments Morgan Freeman has actually kind of had either a voice in or been a part of.
Yeah.
you know, and he's just glory. You know, I mean, he's just.
Oh my God, Lord,
Great movie.
You know, a movie had me cracking up with him, and it's not a comedy at all. Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah, I
I
think I
was,
mentioned that one.
I was cracking up the whole movie.
That again, Driving. That was another one of those movies. You know, you're almost too young to enjoy the movie, but you enjoy it. They managed to kind of. I don't know. It's one of those movies that kind of transcends. You know, like it breaks age gaps.
Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing about that movie, I think it was she was in Georgia, so it kind of like the areas that she's going and how she's traveling. It reminds me a lot of the area where I'm kind of at. You know what I'm saying? But it's a good movie. It didn't make me feel like they were trying to preach or like say, you know, this is how racism is. It was just a timepiece classic. And the real star of that movie wasn't necessarily Morgan Freeman. It was Miss Daisy. She was such a hard-nosed person, and to see Morgan Freeman break her down. And then her son was
Dan Aykroyd.
Oh my God! So when was Ghostbusters? When was Ghostbusters made?
Yeah.
When was Ghostbusters
Come on,
made?
Mama.
Ghostbusters is 80s or what?
Yeah, that's 80s.
Yeah.
80s. Ghostbusters is definitely 80s.
Okay.
I'm sitting here trying to find a movie. Doggone, I can't think of the name. Don't you hate it when that happens?
What are we talking about? Describe it to us.
It's that movie
With that guy?
guys in it. The one dude was a sheriff of a small town, and it was a racist movie basically. But it turns out it wasn't really racist at all. Like the one old lady calls the
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles.
Come on, man. How could you forget that name?
I didn't think of the name to save my life. I was like, the one day he puts a gun to his own head and threatens to kill himself, so they let him go.
Holy crap! You were talking about Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, that's pretty good, Josh. Call that one out.
I'll give you props. That was impressive. But I was looking up Mel
Brooks.
movies, and I'm like, I do not see that on here anywhere. There it is.
Really?
But another one of his movie was Spaceballs. Gosh, I love that movie so much.
The big helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
I love that movie. Was it Daphne Jenga? Is like a female star in that? He jammed raspberry. Only one person will give me the raspberry Lone Star.
They're combing the desert now, sir. We ain't found.
You know what's crazy about Spaceballs? That was one of the first movies that made it okay to not rip off, but to make fun of big franchises.
Yeah.
Now you see it with Scary Movie and stuff like that. But Spaceballs was one of the first ones, if not the first one.
You might be right, because after that, what was it? Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Yes.
I was just looking at that.
Technically, you got Young Frankenstein. I think that was before Spaceballs.
Yeah. That was in the 70s.
Which, between the two, I mean, Spaceballs is good. Young Frankenstein, I can watch that anytime, anywhere, and
That's Willy
just
Wonka. That's Willy
love
Wonka.
it. Yeah,
Can't
see,
go-
Wilder is one of those actors where it's like, I don't know, man. It's for some reason, I've had a hard time getting into Gene Wilder. You know, I can't explain it. Maybe it's
Wow,
like
him with Richard Pryor back in the day? Oh my
that
God.
was incredible.
Remember how they
What
started
was
bouncing in the prison?
Yeah.
What was it? The toy?
The
Was
toy.
that
No, it was
That Richard Pryor was in that, and Jackie Gleason in the toy.
But it was a movie that Pryor and Wilder did together.
But by the way,
That's
that,
we were just talking about that. What was it called?
the
I
prison
can't remember what it was called.
I can't remember that one, but I do remember the one where Richard Pryor was blind and Gene Wilder was
Yeah,
deaf.
Yeah,
Hear
that's
no
what
evil,
I'm
see no
thinking about.
evil.
Hear no evil, see no evil. That okay, yeah.
When Gene Wilder was walking, so Richard could hear him, and he goes, "I feel like I look stupid," and Richard Pryor goes, "You look good to me."
Yeah, well, he won me over from my childhood because like Willy Wonka was probably made in the 70s, and when I grew up, we used to always have to watch Willy Wonka in school, so I was kind of familiar with Gene Wilder. But yeah, he does have a particular look, and when you talk about Young Frankenstein, like that's one of the. We talk about movies like Lost Boys. You talk about like you got some cult classics that became famous after they were made, like
Blade Runner,
like Blade Runner, or one movie that blew up. That my kids were watching it more than I was. I bought it for myself, but Monster Squad.
God, yeah.
Wolfman's got Nords.
And then when what was that? Dracula called the little girl a bitch. I was like, whoa, Dracula! Like, but Monster Squad, they said did terrible in the movies, but then all of a sudden, like 5-6 years later, it just started blowing up. So I bought Monster Squad for myself, and I was like, I'm gonna sit down and watch this movie or whatever. And so I put it up, but then I came, back like 3 days later, and my kids were just watching it back to back to back to back, and I was like, yeah, it must be a good movie. So
I'll tell you, that's the power of the Universal monsters, man. We can have our Freddy Kruegers and our Jasons, but you go back to the original core Universal guys, and to me, they're timeless.
Yes, yeah. What's your favorite Universal monster out of all four of us? What's your favorite? D?
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Josh?
I can't.
Hey, you just want a muscle or something there.
I would
Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's mine.
Frankenstein's monster, you poser.
What a baldy.
Feel the burn.
When they said
It's a toss up between Frankenstein's monster or Creature.
Creature from the I gotta go back and get those movies. Like they were saying that it was one scene in Frankenstein where he threw the girl in the water that they had to cut out because it was so dark for that time. Could you think about that? Like back then, like it's dark now.
Yeah.
But back then, for him to take the little girl and throw her in the water like a flower, that's I don't want to say it's awesome, but
people were fainting in the theaters at Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Okay.
Think about that. I mean, that's how like taboo stuff was. But yeah, they were crap. Wild Darby is watching it.
You should look in the mirror, Chris. That's scary.
I know you are, but what am I?
On a podcast, you're not.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Pee Wee Herman's bigger.
The man who was just burned now throws a burn. When I think about like those dark movies, have you ever seen Heathers?
No,
but I know what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, it is so good. It's about Christian Slater. He moves and he's a really bad dude, and him and Winona Ryder. But Heathers is like this group of popular girls. They all happen to be named Heather. So all the girls are part of the group of Heathers.
You ever seen it?
Oh my gosh! Oh fuck!
It's supposed to be a horror movie?
Well, no, it's not a horror movie. It's just a dark movie.
Okay.
I'm not gonna spoil it, but watch Heathers.
Slater's been in some dark stuff, man. True Romance. If you haven't seen True Romance, watch it.
Oh yes.
I tried to watch True Romance. It was just I couldn't get through the first 30 minutes of that movie.
It's got some pretty grimy parts in it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's parts where it's just like Christopher. I think Christopher Walken does a little monologue where you just feel dirty after you watch that.
Christopher Walken. Love Christopher Walken.
I do too, but I mean, this is one of those parts where it's kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio taking that role in Django Unchained, where after watching that you're like, man, I hope this doesn't absolutely destroy him because he is so freaking grimy right now. It's like they acted so well.
Yeah, we grew up with it. Yeah, go ahead.
After you, man. Go.
I was saying we grew up with Leonardo DiCaprio, so it's nothing. I mean, that he played. Actually, his character was so entertaining. Like I look past Django was just wow, just such an awesome movie. Like I was just into the movie. Just good movie. Good movie.
I mean, that scene where he cuts his hand and then wipes the blood on the woman. Oh,
that was improvised.
Yeah.
He
really bloodied his hand. He just kept going with the scene. Like, wow.
If you look at Kerry Washington's face, she's horrified.
Mm-hmm. Legitimately horrified, yeah.
But you look at some of those movies that have like those like I want to say like Michael Rappaport. What was it? Higher Learning.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then there was Apt Pupil. But you like people that take like those extremely charged roles.
Yes.
And just the effect that it has on them, after that.
Yes.
Even the two guys, like we were just talking about A Time to Kill. Have you seen the two guys that were like the bad guys in that ever again?
Yeah, never. The funny thing about it is, and this is a funny story, what you're talking about, when they play their roles so good that people hate them for life.
Yep.
In Coming to America, the guy that was the Prince of Soul Glow, my mom still hates him to this day because of how he treated Eddie Murphy in the movie. How he treated Eddie Murphy. He's like, I hate him. I'm like, Mom, it was just a movie.
It's like that poor kid that played Joffrey in Game of Thrones, man. I mean, it's like,
yeah, that poor kid. He's like, I'm done with this. I'm out.
I mean, he was posting pictures on. Here we go. He was posting pictures of him on Twitter, like hugging puppies, going, "I'm not that bad."
Yeah, I'm not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And after the picture.
I'm looking at. I can see my horror collection from here, and I got a Stephen King section, and Jesus Christ, like Pet Cemetery, Carrie.
Love Carrie. Love the original one. I thought the new one was good. But I thought the original one is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, you can't touch that. And then you have Chris.
Is Sissy Spacek in that one? In the original one?
I just know that she's an actress with this funny nose.
Sissy Spacek. Sissy Spacek.
That's her name.
So I was right.
You got Stephen King. So you got Carrie, the movie with the car, like
Christine.
Sorry, Christine. Wow, Stephen King.
That's on my list too because I thought, wow. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. It's like I didn't want to get near cars after that for a while.
Have you seen Christine, Josh?
No, that is on my list. I'm a big John Carpenter fan, but that's one I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, Christine is. I know you'll like it. It's different. You can't find. Stephen King sometimes makes movies or some directors make movies like Spike Lee. Spike Lee movies are just different. You know what I'm saying? It's not the average movie, and I like those type of movies. Like I was telling you guys about Narc. If you watch Narc, it's just a different movie. Like you can't say, we can't watch Narc and be like, oh, I'm going to watch another movie that's kind of similar to it. It's just nothing can follow it. And I like those type of movies, just different, weird type of movies or whatever.
Stephen King, how about Children of the Corn?
That's another one, cult classic.
That one, I was when I was a kid, I was terrified. No cars.
I grew up around cornfields. They were always like, I know one guy, he would do like 10 acres in silage, and just we would venture into the cornfield, just to play around, and then all of a sudden you start thinking Children of the Corn. It's like, yeah, it's time to leave.
I mean, but come on, man, that movie made I don't know his name, but Malachi. Come on, man. Nobody was more sinister than Malachi. Go and get Malachi. He was a trip. So when you talk about, it's crazy because I was so scared of Malachi, but then I saw another 80s movie. It might be the 90s. Can't Buy Me Love. A lot of people haven't seen Can't Buy Me Love, but Malachi was actually in that movie. He played a nerd.
I don't know what that movie is.
Huh?
I'm trying to think what's that movie about?
Can't Buy Me Love was about a guy who was a nerd. If you ever seen Transformers, Dark of the Moon, he was a guy who was after the girlfriend, or the girlfriend worked for. They call him McDreamy or some crap. But he was young in that movie.
Was that a doctor from Grey's Anatomy?
That's it.
That's
McDreamy. When I said that, you know who he is.
Is that Patrick Dempsey?
Yeah, Patrick Dempsey. Yeah,
But
Okay.
he's real
Ocean number 9.
he's real young in this movie, right? So the synopsis of the movie is he's a nerd and he wants to become popular, so he pays this girl to go on dates with him. And when he becomes popular, his head gets big.
Yeah,
And then she exposes him to the whole school, and they kind of like put him in solitary. It's a real good movie though. Can't Buy Me Love is a classic movie of the 80s, but it's kind of like 16 Candles. It's around that era.
yeah. Well, you just mentioned like the popular kids at school. It made me think of Lucas.
Lucas.
You remember that movie?
I haven't seen it.
Luca
I was
played.
going to say that thought never crossed my mind.
You talking about kids movies, and next thing you know, talking about high school and playing football, sports. I'm like, Lucas.
Yeah.
Does anyone know the movie besides me?
When you talk about popular kids in high school, I always think about Waterboy. I'm messing with you.
Well, Lucas was the opposite of being the popular guy. He was trying to get the one girl, and she ended up dating what's his name? Sheen. What's the Sheen guy? Tiger Blood guy. What's his name?
Tiger Blood.
Tiger Blood.
I'm so lost.
Charlie?
It's like his references are like, come on.
Hashtag winning.
Well,
Yeah. Not Martin Sheen. Whatever. Anyway.
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie.
oh.
Charlie Sheen. He was like the jock football player, and he got the girl that Lucas wanted. Lucas was a little nerd with glasses. So he was like, I'll show you. I'll go out for the football team. His helmet's too big, wobbling when he's running. He's got the pads on there like way too big for him. It's a fun movie. You gotta watch it.
Charlie Sheen's been in a couple things too.
Charlie Sheen.
How
Oh,
about
my.
Platoon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Major League?
Yeah.
Major League. Wild thing.
Wow thing.
Yummy, 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 yum.
Yeah. He took a scary movie when the Wayans brother lost it, and he played such a classic character in the third scary movie?
Mhm.
Like they were like, this is how we pee. And he started brushing his teeth because they only had his pee. Oh my God. Charlie Sheen is such a the funny thing about him is that he's a good comedy actor, but then when you watch movies like Young Guns, oh my God,
Yes.
Great movie. Him and his brother Emilio Estevez.
Emilio Estevez.
You
Young
know,
Guns. Go ahead.
Jim Carrey is like that, like serious as a nail, and then Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
But Young Guns.
Like a glove.
Which movie you talking about?
Ace Ventura 2 when he parks that Jeep.
Oh,
Like a glove.
oh.
like a glove.
Love that.
Jim Carrey is one of my favorite comedians of all time. Like when you talk about comedy, I don't even mention him because he's on a whole nother planet. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to comedy, he's just such a.
He's on a whole other planet all around.
I mean, he's just Jim Carrey is because I grew up. The first time I saw James Carrey was on In Living Color.
Yes.
When he did Vanilla Ice, and knowing Vanilla Ice was so mad about the betrayal of oh my God, Jim Carrey is just Fire Marshal Bill.
Oh my God, that was such a great one too.
Come in, let me tell you something. Oh my God, just
that whole show to me was great.
yeah, that's epitome of the '90s. So, but I mean, it's still
like slapstick humor, man, like Naked Gun, Airplane.
Was it Liv Nielsen?
Leslie
Nielsen.
Rest in peace, Leslie Nielsen, because his delivery, I don't know how he stayed so serious.
That's what I was
he did.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Like, how can you keep a straight face and you're so freaking funny?
Yeah.
He used to
So that's
try
why
to
they
be
called him Funny Face.
he tried to be a serious actor, and then he fell into the police squad and all of that.
Yeah.
And his delivery is just so
Deadpan.
perfect.
Lieutenant Trevin.
Such a great stuff.
It's like you have something on
I mean,
your
O.J.
face.
Simpson, I'm sorry, but O.J.
Yeah, but they were doing to OJ what they should have done to him in that movie.
But he went down the steps in the wheelchair flip.
Remember, he leaned on the wall, wet paint. He was like, "Oh." So what did he smash his face in a birthday cake? Like, who thinks of this type of stuff? Naked Gun. Oh my God, with Elvis Presley's ex-wife.
Oh yeah, Priscilla.
Oh yeah, nice
Priscilla,
beaver. Thanks, I stuffed it myself.
Yeah, nice beaver. remember she tried to slap him, he caught the hands, tried to slap him, he caught the hand, then the third hand came up. He was like,
I have to go watch that movie later on.
You got to watch all of them. That's the thing. You don't just watch one. You binge it. Binging is the new.
What was it? The second one was just 2, and the third one was 33 and a third.
33 and a third.
One, it's Naked Gun 2.5. Then you had Naked Gun 33 and a third.
Yeah, I remember the third was 33 and a third. I couldn't. Yeah, 2.5. Yeah.
He was in the. Remember, he was in the restaurant.
This is not an 80s, but I mean, in the same vein was the Hot Shots movies.
Yeah.
That's
Charlie Sheen.
Is that Charlie?
My favorite, huh?
That's
Charlie Sheen too, right?
Yeah, it's Charlie Sheen. My favorite is the second one when they rip off the opening of Rambo 3 where he's in there fighting with the sticks. And he kicks the guys and the nuts and his balls come out of his mouth. You win! Falls back. It kills me every time.
The front cover, he's on the front cover with Bo. I think he has like a chicken in it or something.
Chicken on the end of it. Yeah.
Was that Hot Shot?
Was Hot Shots Part Deuce?
Yeah.
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 Okay, there's another movie. Okay, after Airplane, but before Naked Gun, and it was like right on the tip of my tongue. It was another one of those absurd style movies.
Police Academy?
No, we discussed Police Academy. You were late to that party.
No.
Between Airplane.
Come on, Hightower.
I'm not sure.
And it wasn't Mel Brooks. Oh, come on. It was so obvious just a sec. Y'all continue talking. I'm going to sit here and pontificate real quick.
Well, I do love the movie.
Amongst yourselves.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna get you, sucker. No, I'm just messing with you.
That was actually good.
He OG'd.
Too much gold.
Oh man, my wife and I will randomly say that and just bust out laughing.
My ex-wife's favorite part is where he was right across the street and stepped on the dead man and the dead man farted. That movie is so ridiculous.
That's great.
I'm lost right now. Naked Gun, Airplane. Airplane was classic too.
Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Right, don't worry about me, John.
Woman.
My turn.
Wait a minute, what was the mom? There was a woman in that movie. There's an older lady. She was a mom on some old TV show, and she come up and she was talking to the two guys talking jive.
Yeah, she was like, "Don't worry about it. I talk jive."
What you do?
I didn't understand what they were saying. I was like, "What the hell?"
I was laughing my butt off at that. Oh my gosh, that was great.
The two twins fighting in Thailand. I was like, "What the hell?" Fighting all over the bar.
All right. Is this a comedy or is this a horror? Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I absolutely love this movie. It's a bad movie, but man, I love it.
It's a car wreck. You know how you ride past a car wreck and you just you're like, oh man, I can't believe that they're taking up all this space. But then you get up there, you start looking, and you're like, I can't look away.
Yeah,
it's how Killer Clowns from. I tried to show it to my kids, and my kids was like, "Really, Daddy?" And I was like,
"Really?"
I was like,
My
it's a
kids
good.
loved it. They started out scared, but they got into that movie. They loved it.
I mean, that scene when the one clown is like walking in front of the drugstore, and then he just starts. When the two people come by, I laugh my butt off at that every single time.
I got it.
What it is?
1989 gave us Mr. Weird Al Yankovic in UHF.
UHF, yeah, with Cosmo Kramer in it.
Yes.
What better defines parody than Weird Al Yankovic
Yeah.
Oh, my
and then
God.
him doing a movie? You
Oh,
know,
And his music is, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, he actually
I'm fat, you know it.
he made Coolio mad.
Oh yeah,
Really? With
yeah.
Gangsta's
Paradise, yeah.
Amish Paradise?
Mhm. Yeah, that could have ended bad.
Yeah, Weird Al Yankovic is, wow, I don't even think kids will realize how much of a jewel he was in the 80s. He was just such a jewel.
Yeah.
the first time you heard "fat" or "eat it," you know, Michael Jackson was a popular target. You know,
Then when he sang "Like a Surgeon," I was like, that is so good. I lost on Jeopardy. Baby.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Good.
Go ahead.
I was so disappointed I could not see him when he hit the Civic Center. The tickets sold out, and I just wasn't going to pay that. I idolize the man, but my idolization does have a price.
Yeah.
You know, if I ain't gonna pay $150 to see Stan Lee, I'm not gonna pay $200 a ticket to sit in the 50th row to watch Weird Al.
That's how I was with Dave Chappelle when he came in town. His tickets was like $300 or whatnot. I was like, I love Dave Chappelle, but
Come on, Chappelle.
$200?
they were like $300.
Me.
I mean, but then this was when he came back from when he came back from Africa and everything.
Yeah.
So he was like, it wasn't. I know his tickets now are well worth the price, but that's when he came back from the controversy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His role in Men in Tights, to me, I absolutely love. Absolutely love it.
Oh yeah.
Dude, he's done some funny stuff. Half Baked.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Him and his writer Neil. A lot of people don't realize that him and this white guy named Neil, they're like neck and neck. And a lot of the Dave Chappelle show, yes, you had Charlie Murphy's influence, but it's a small white guy named Neil that's his writer that knows more about black people than some black people. Like they had a skit called "I Love Black People." Oh, I know black people on his show, and Neil is actually on that skit. And it's crazy because he was talking about Good Times and he was trying to sing the theme song for Good Times, which had me cracking up.
Yeah,
I know what
saw
you're
that.
talking about. That's where I learned what a Lucy was.
Yeah, and Neil is also in Half Baked. He's the one that is announcing what food needs to be made, and he's like, "Dude, I'm right behind you. Just tell me what you want." That's Neil, the one that's the butthole. That's telling him he wants a double burger with cheese, and Scarface is like really right behind him.
F you. You're
You're
cool. Little old lady, like, yeah. You killed Killer, yo. Man, he stepped on his head.
One of my favorite Dave Chappelle's moment is Nutty Professor. Oh my God! When he was on stage, should I get on him?
Yeah.
Hold on. What was that? It had what's his name? He was Eddie Griffin. What? Come on, Undercover Brother.
Yeah.
Chappelle was amazing in that, man.
Yeah, he was called Angry Brother or something like that.
He was like a militant brother or something.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle's stupid.
We call that mayonnaise.
I watched a weird movie with him on Netflix. It was him and a guy, and the guy was like a butler, and they came up with a scheme to kidnap the butler and hold him for ransom, but he kidnapped himself. It was like a weird movie. If you guys get a chance, like that's one of the Dave Chappelle movies that's featured on Netflix. I didn't know Dave Chappelle
Oh, that-
did so many like in the corner pocket movies. You know.
Speaking of butlers,
He was jobless and he was trying. I think I saw that movie.
Yeah.
He was jobless, and sure enough, the what's his face, Hal, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Right.
He was.
Movie.
He was doing. He actually he was working at a chicken wing place or some crap like that. it's a weird comedy. It's really weird.
Speaking
But
of butlers,
it's on
speaking of
Netflix.
butlers,
Yeah, I'll have to
Clue.
check it out then.
What movie?
Clue.
Clue.
Oh, yeah.
Board game, Clue.
Oh, yeah.
Another Tim Curry movie was in that.
That was my
Definitely.
favorite board game as a child, so I had to watch the movie.
Yeah.
That movie was a must.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
It is so fun, and you just watch it over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
We- Every time you say Tim Curry, I think of it, but then I also think of Home Alone too, like when he was the guy that was over the hotel.
Yeah.
Get down on your knees and tell me I love you.
I love you.
Oh my God, Tim Curry, man, Jesus Christ!
You can live everybody.
Ow with the gimpy leg.
It's a lie, I swear.
What's you can do it? His name? He was in there.
Rob Schneider.
Is it Rob Schneider or no?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
it
do
was
it.
Rob Schneider. He was the bellboy.
Yeah, he's a bellboy.
It's like I have a little left over. It's
Yeah.
like pulling out the money. Wait.
I was watching The Hot Chick the other day, man. You talk about tears on top of tears. Oh my God!
Oh, the hot chick was terrible. It was a kid terrible.
Oh man, you can do it.
Rob Schneider has been in the most god awful great movies.
Yeah. I'm
I'm gonna be on his tombstone.
the greatest B-list comedy actor ever.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler keeps him in his movies. That's what I like about it. He always
Deuce
has.
Bigelow, though, man. I mean,
Huh?
Deuce Bigelow.
Oh my
Deuce
God!
Bigelow.
Break? I thought you said steak.
Cakes and pies, that's my favorite game.
Deuce Bigelow, man.
Was he? Did he dress up like the Girl Scout cookie salesman? He's like, "Would you like some cookies?"
No,
that
that's
was Chris Kattan.
Yeah,
Oh, Catan. I like Catan.
Would you like to buy some cookies?
that thing with Chris Kattan and The Rock, where they played like the little like half monkey, half human, and they're like biting the apples and spitting it all over each other.
That's when the world took notice that The Rock was actually going to be the next big actor when he did that Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But then he turned around and did The Mummy 2, which has the worst CGI at the end, where he's the
Pretty
Scorpion
bad.
King.
It's pretty
And
bad.
then he did the Scorpion King, which was terrible. I know some people that like Scorpion King, but no, I didn't really like any of the Rock movies until he did
The Rundown.
not The Rundown,
I
Walking
love
Tall.
The Rundown.
Walking Tall. That's when I really knew that he was a good actor. Walking Tall was pretty good. Yeah,
Bring a little thunder. Got a little
Lightning. Lightning. Oh my God, Stifler. Thunder, lightning. I was like, really?
That's when you like advance about 10, 15 years here.
Oh yeah, we
we got
kind of, yeah.
to the 80s.
Yeah, 80s. I'm sorry.
We walked that path together, man.
Thunder, lightning. Oh my God, I can't get that out of my head. Now I'm gonna have to watch that movie. But the cool thing about that movie is when he's walking through the club, Arnold Schwarzenegger actually walks past him, and that was symbolically Arnold Schwarzenegger passing the baton to The Rock to be the next big action actor. So, but Thunder Lightning, I'm gonna say that all night to my kids. Thunder Lightning. It's stuck in my head.
Who was that?
All right, Joe, get us back on track, man. Throw something out there.
Yeah, please get me away from that phrase, please.
I'm looking for comedy now. I don't know what I'm looking for.
I just gave you like, the meth of all. Like,
Beetlejuice.
Oh well, you talk about a movie that I watch over and over. Like my kids are like, "Daddy, again?" Like for real. Just Winona Ryder before she started stealing stuff.
Yeah.
But when you talk about Beetlejuice, it goes hand in hand with Edward Scissorhands because that was Winona Ryder too, and that's
yeah, Johnny Depp.
Oh my
Those Tim Burton films.
Tim Burton. Oh my God.
Yeah, almost every one of Tim Burton's movies.
Tim Burton actually directed was it Pee-wee's
Yeah.
Big
Adventure.
Big Adventure? That's what it was?
Yeah.
Because when I heard
my bike.
when I heard Danny Elfman
That's one of my
music
favorite
in
movies.
it, I was like, yeah, it gotta be Tim Burton.
That is one of my all-time favorite movies.
People heard Big Adventure.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, my God.
I love that. Tell him Large Marge sent you.
Oh, just gonna see that. Oh my God. When the boyfriend was listening to the wall and she was like, "Yes, Pee-wee, just take it out." He was like, "Oh." Oh my God.
Pee-wee. I've lost the mode.
What about Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's on the list.
Evil. Yeah.
What's the actor's name?
Bruce
Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, yeah. And
Sugar baby.
the director,
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi, yeah. Because he did, the crazy thing about him is he did the first Spider-Man and the second Spider-Man, and he actually had him in both movies. He kept Bruce, what's his name? The actor?
Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. He kept him in both movies. I thought that was pretty cool. That's pretty good.
Shop smart. Stop that smart.
I actually have the movie Chainsaw Hand, everything. Yeah, man. Classic.
You're talking
Classic.
Army of Darkness, yeah.
Army of Darkness, classic. Wow.
Didn't he have the Chainsaw Hand in Evil Dead 2?
I get all those movies confused because I don't know.
They're all kind of the same movie, aren't they?
Kind of all
Well,
the same.
yeah, Evil Dead 2 was a remake of Evil Dead, but yeah, it was Evil Dead came out in what, 80?
Evil Dead 2 was 87.
Yeah. So
I
Evil
remember-
Dead came out
I
in the
know
80s.
where I was at when I watched Evil Dead 2.
It's a horror / comedy, which is weird, you know.
Yeah, well, Evil Dead was more horror, and Evil Dead 2 had the mix of comedy, and then Army of Darkness did even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's my personal favorite of the three is Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness.
His name was Ash, right, in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ash. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, that's go ahead.
What about Return of the Living Dead? Y'all seen that?
I've actually had that in the collection. I haven't watched it yet, but I've actually got it.
That's an amazing. It's just a super fun movie. Apparently, Daryl and William have not seen Return of the Living Dead.
Now I know they did do a recent one. They did like in 2000. They revisited one of those movies, but they did it more like more of a serious horror. I gotta look it up after this podcast.
Shaun of the Dead?
They did three because
Oh,
Return
that
of the Living Dead is not part of like Night of the Living Dead.
Uh-huh.
It's its own thing. It's about these group of punks that go into a cemetery and they're waiting for this chick's boyfriend to get off of work who's working in a morgue and
Nuclear, the rain.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about. Because the chick was dancing in the graveyard naked.
yeah, that one.
I remember that.
Yeah, of course you remember that part.
No wonder you like that movie.
Oh,
I don't know this movie at all.
Dude, no, it's actually, now that he's because I thought you were talking about something new in the Evil Dead series.
No,
Then
no,
like, you're like, oh, okay, no, you're talking about. Yeah, I remember that movie well. That was one of those, me and some buddies like snuck and kind of watched that. We used to watch horror movies every Saturday over at one of the neighborhood kids' houses, and that was on the list. That's, like I say, such classics as Chopping Mall and
Chopping
Return
Mall.
of the Living Dead. You know, they were watched in that household. Then we'd play D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Then we'd sacrifice small children, and hey, we tried to
Look at me, I'm in a basement full of comics.
Yeah.
Did y'all like Dawn of the Dead when John Carpenter bought it back? That was the one where they were in the mall or whatever.
Oh yeah, I loved that.
I thought that was
doing
pretty good.
Sniper Wars on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had they put Johnny Cash in the movie, which I thought, wow, that was just awesome, because Johnny Cash music is just classic when it comes to some of the world events and stuff like that. Yeah.
They did some cool stuff with that soundtrack. Like they had that the
remake.
Lounge Act Disturbed song.
Yeah, it was
The Sickness.
yeah, it was Down with the Sickness. But it was like a weird, like jazzy version or something.
Yeah, it was like a lounge version. Stuff
Yeah.
like you'd hear, like Tom Jones or what's his face Jones singing.
I like the original more. I don't care for the remake. I like the original more. That's just me.
Well, originals, it's so many of them. When you talk about like John Carpenter's, you got like Night of the Living Dead. You got like.
Well, this was George Romero. John Carpenter didn't do them.
Okay, because the first one was a black and white film, and I saw that one. Now, who actually did that one?
That's George Romero.
Yeah, see,
Black Guy's the hero?
That's the one I saw, but really after that, I didn't see many of them.
Okay.
Yeah, George Romero did the Night of Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and I think Land of the Dead was the last one he did.
Is that the one with the short Hispanic? What's his name? Was that modern? Like a couple years ago, the Land of the Living Dead.
Land of the Living Dead came out year after Shaun of the Dead came out.
Yeah, because that's the one with the black guy was a leader of the zombies or whatever.
Yeah,
and they were smart. That's with what's his name from Spawn, who played the clown in Spawn?
John
Leguizamo.
Oh my God, he's such a good actor. Like for
He
real.
really is.
Good God.
Yeah.
Good God. Yeah, he played that role in that movie. I really like that movie. The craziest thing about that movie was when you saw the headless preacher, and it was like, oh, there's no head on it. And then the body went like this, and the head flipped over. And I was like, what in the actual? I got bleeped out. But you see a headless zombie, and you're like, oh, it doesn't have a head. But then it flips the head around the back of his back and bites the guy. I was like, what's the chances of that happening?
Well,
Surprise!
Around here.
Yeah, but when you talk about Shaun of the Dead, you talk about like you're talking about foreign films. I always think when you talk about Shaun of the Dead, I always think of like 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, because I know they were shot overseas or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that was Cillian Murphy.
That was the first one I ever saw him in. Was 28 Days Later.
That's a
I
guy
saw a little too much of him, but
that's the guy who plays Scarecrow, right? In Dark Knight.
He's also got a pretty
saw him. He was in that movie
Peaky
with
Blinders, what it's called.
What happened?
Go ahead.
Said he's also got a pretty cool series on Netflix, Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
That's like one of those British, think gangs in New York and Britain, in London.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of runs kind of a mob there, and that's pretty good.
Isn't that like the Irish Mob or something?
Probably. I don't know. They all sound the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang.
He did a movie called The Red Eye, which kind of like
That's the one with Jodie Foster.
when they're on
that movie, and you just said it's like that's the one.
when they're on the airplane and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
He's a pretty. He looks crazy. Actually, he looks like he could play a villain.
Yeah.
That's one of those guys you look at, and you're like, wow, he's definitely a bad guy.
Like John Malkovich.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, 80s movies.
I was going to mention Red Dawn.
Oh my god.
Yes.
That's Sean Connery's in that too, right? No, that's A Hunt for Red October. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
god.
Oh, we went underwater.
The Hunt for Red Dawn.
Oh my god. I'm so
The Hunt for Red Dawn.
Charlie
Hunt
Sheen,
for Red Dawn.
Patrick Swayze, and I think Ali Sheedy was Ali Sheedy.
Ali Sheedy was in that. Yeah.
Oh man, Ali Sheedy.
The Russians invade the U.S.
Yeah.
I remember where I was when I saw this. It was like
Yeah.
1986.
Yeah.
And it was like the height of just before Reagan got the tear down that wall.
Yeah.
You know, all these kids were in school, and I remember that like the Russians started shooting at the school, and you know, you just saw kids hanging out of the window and everything. It's like, man, what would I do?
Yeah.
You know, if something like this were to happen, you actually wanted to have like a contingency plan for if the Russians invaded.
It's like you look outside and all of a sudden you see men on parachutes coming down. Like, what the?
That movie's like when it started, and you just wrote it all the way, and it's like, oh, you know.
Yeah. Sequel was terrible.
Yeah.
Not a sequel, but when they redid it, not a sequel. They rebooted it.
Any of these hallowed 80s movies we're talking about, I will not watch a remake.
Yeah.
It's like I saw the original. I don't need to improve it, you know?
Yeah.
That movie made me kind of like go back and like watch the real history of Russia, and you know how Stalin took Russia from a peasant society and made it a superpower. Mm-hmm. So I really love movies from that genre where you have you know, Stalin and you have Hitler and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a pretty good movie. It made me study the Russian Revolution. You know, so much to the point where they probably think I'm a communist, but I'm not. I just like that. I just like that era. So how can you guys mention 80 movies and not mention Howard the Duck? I mean, come on, man.
God.
It's simple. Watch me.
Like one of the first Marvel movies. Like a lot of people don't realize Howard the Duck is Marvel. Like just
man.
They had your girl in it who was in all the 80s movies.
Leah Thompson. I mean, gosh.
Did we not like Howard the Duck? Is it not like a cult classic? Like
to me, it's a guilty pleasure.
Classic.
It's a guilty pleasure. It's like one of those things that I really don't want to watch, but every now and again I'm like, you know what? I just need to see it again.
I think they went overboard with the Play Duck magazine. You remember he had the Play Duck magazine?
Yeah. Oh, when he was
John Lithgow, wasn't he the bad guy?
Who was the bad
guy?
John Lithgow.
Anyway.
Was it Lithgow? Yeah.
You talking about the guy from the principal from Ferris Bueller, all that kind of stuff? Yeah.
I mean, that scene where he's like being sucked to Earth, and you see that bathtub with the naked
duck in it.
No, you can't do that.
One of my classic lines in that movie is she was like, "Help him." He's like, "If you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen." He was like possessed by the. Howard the Duck is such a terrible movie, but it's so good at the same time.
Yeah,
like, there's stuff like that, you know, where you can't. It's so bad, it's good.
I mean, you give me Sharknado and Sharktopus.
Oh,
I'm there. I am there. They're so bad, but I'll watch them.
They have a Sharknado Funko Pop. When I was like, "Oh my God, they have a Sharknado."
I got it.
Oh,
I don't have. They had a San Diego one with blood on his teeth. I don't have that one.
Okay.
But the regular one I do have.
So
Magic the Gathering actually just paid like homage to Sharknado with a card, Shark Tornado. So that'll tell you right there how bad movies can affect society.
Oh, Sharktopus. Sharktopus was great.
I wanted to ask you guys the Alias franchise. You know, that carried us from 79 on to like the 90s. So what's your favorite?
That's how I met Sigourney Weaver.
Oh my God, I fell in love. But what's your favorite Alias?
Just what you said, Aliens, period. Like, I mean,
First one?
granted, but like Aliens, again, you're at that age where stuff kind of affects you, and you watch Aliens, which was like, Alien was like, I saw Alien way after I watched Aliens, and it was very slow, but like Aliens, where you get to learn about like the chest bursters and all of that, how it starts to, man, I tell you, it's just like I say that. Now, granted, you had better effects in later movies and everything. Don't get me wrong, and I think they're all fine movies. But just an overall impact to me, Aliens was the most impactful.
That's the second one.
You remember?
I guess.
When the one comes out of the guy's chest and he walks off, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling."
Which one's your favorite one, Josh?
It has to be Alien.
The
first
original?
one?
The original?
Yeah, the original.
That's my favorite. This guy,
I mean, Aliens is hands down probably the best sci-fi action movie ever made.
Yeah.
But Alien had a stigma for me. Like, I didn't get to watch a lot of horror or a lot of dark sci-fi movies when I was younger. So Alien and Blade Runner were the first two movies I rented when I was old enough to drive to Blockbuster.
Oh.
Okay.
I got those two movies. And I mean, it was like watching Alien. I thought I was going to get in trouble watching it. Like, I was waiting for my parents to come in and catch me watching this movie. And I was scared to death of watching that movie. I mean, every little thing, I was just like,
The first one, my favorite one was always the second one, right?
Hold on. Fred, I'm sorry, man, but I just want to throw this in there. It's like you're doing the water boy thing. I saw boobies, Mom, and I liked them.
And I like boobies too.
she showed me boobies, and I like those too.
All right, I'm sorry, Fred. You go right
Vicky
ahead,
Valancourt.
man.
Hey, Vicky, we can always pause for Vicky Valancourt. But
yes, Vicky Valancourt.
The second one was always my favorite until I got deep into the franchise, and they started showing me that from the first movie, they were setting you up. The first movie, you see like this huge, gigantic thing where the chestbuster bursts out of. Now, at first, that was supposed to be in Aliens lore. I was supposed to be a predator, because, but they remixed it to where it was one of the, what's the guys from Prometheus that made them?
The engineers.
The engineers. That's what it was. So if you go back and watch the first movie, and you see where the movies have gone, it's like, wow, they put a gem in the very first movie. So like now when I watch the first movie, it's like, wow, that's an engineer. So even though the first movie is very slow, it's just a classic. Now part one has a classic scene that everybody tried when they were kids. You took the butter knife and you told your brother or sister, hold a hand out. Remember that part? Like that scared me. Well, I can't say the word, but my older brother used to tell me to do that crazy crap. He used to have a butter knife, and every once in a while I'd get nicked because he wasn't the android in the movie. You know? What was the android? What was the android's name? Because they segue him
Bishop.
into Bishop.
Yeah.
And then you had Whaling Industries, Bishop Whaling. So
yeah.
He was actually in Aliens versus Predator. He was actually alive before they made him an android in the first movie. So it's pretty good. I really do like the first Aliens. I think the weaker one is the third one when she went to the prison planet. Everybody says the third one is the weakest. I've heard some people say the last one they didn't like. I like Resurrection. I didn't care that
I
they
did not
started.
like Resurrection.
I didn't like it at all.
No, not at all.
To the restroom.
I actually bought that at a Walmart. I bought Resurrection at Walmart on VHS. I watched it, and I took it back to Walmart. I was like, this movie is terrible.
What was the problem that you didn't like about Resurrection? Or should I just say, what did you like about it? What's
What I liked
easier?
about it, I liked Ron Perlman. That was, I mean, I loved Ron Perlman in that movie. I didn't like the baby alien. It just, oh,
They have an action figure of that one, actually.
really? The McFarlane toy?
Yeah, the human alien
Yeah,
crossbreed.
hybrid. I'm pretty good at suspending belief in things, especially with movies. But that one, when it got sucked out of that little hole, I just couldn't. I had to stop, and I
Cool.
took that movie back. They wouldn't even take it back. They would not take the movie back.
Once you open stuff, Walmart would not. But the coolest thing about the movie, the only cool thing about the movie, I guess, was that we learned that they can actually swim.
Yeah, that was a cool scene.
I really thought you were going to say what you liked about it was it ended.
Yeah, people always say Resurrection wasn't the best one because the first scene started off with a xenomorph, and you should actually, all the other movies waited and built up the suspense for the xenomorphs. So.
It had a lot of potential. I'll give it that. So did Alien 3. But it's just somewhere, I don't know what it was, somewhere along the lines, they just stopped caring, I guess. It was just...
Well, part two is hard to follow. I mean, come on, man. You had the classic line, let her go. You know what I'm saying? Which you had the exoskeleton suit. So
Yeah.
part two is really hard to. You get to a point in movie making where you just can't. I mean, you can't go past that. It's just you've reached the best that you're going to get.
Yeah.
So,
Alien 3, I actually like the director's cut for Alien 3 more.
okay.
Because it fleshes things out a bit more, and it's added a lot of extra scenes, so everything starts to make a little more sense. It is super long, though, but it's a lot more solid than what we got.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Alien franchise. Love it. I mean, I watch all the supplementals and things. I love it to death. I'm not that same way with Predator, or even the melding of the two. But Alien, the Xenomorphs, I love those things.
I've always been biased because people was like, you have to choose between Predator and Aliens, and I thought that there were more emphasis put on Aliens, so I used to hate on the Xenomorphs, but then I got to the age where I realized you don't have to choose between the two. But I've always been a huge Predator fan, because people always, growing my dreads, they were, you like a Predator. But anyway, mine has always been the Predators, but I definitely have more respect for the Aliens now that they started expanding the universe into like Prometheus and stuff like that. Like, I really do like those movies. So, and then they started expanding the Predators universe. Like, so I really. Yeah, but I think Aliens versus Predator was necessary to bring those franchises. So we're still talking about Aliens Resurrection, right? No.
Now y'all want Aliens versus Predator, which is like the 80s sci-fi wet dream that just happened way too late.
But I think the only reason why they did that is because you came out of Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say Freddy versus Jason was the 80s wet dream.
Freddy versus Jason had me kind of puzzled. Kind of had me mad at the end because it's like they said Jason won, but then you see Freddy winks his eye. I'm like, okay, so Jason's dreaming, or can we have a clear winner? Like, for real. But I think in a real, go ahead.
We deserve resolution, man. That's all it is to it.
I think in a real life battle though, Freddy would get the upper hand. I
There's
mean,
no way that he couldn't.
he's a master of dreams, even daydreams. If you daydream, he can get you. You know.
But does Jason dream?
I don't know.
What does Jason dream about?
I can tell you this.
He dreams about Phoebe Cates getting out of a swimming pool.
I can tell you this. Like,
Daryl, I think you need to drop the mic on that one and end the show.
Gotta go. Okay, there's a genre of movie that came out in the 80s that, to me, changed so much in the world, really, I think. But the emergence of rap music movies, such as Crush Groove, which I absolutely love to this day.
okay, you said something that I can stand by. Because if you was gonna say "Get Rich or Die Trying," I just
I was thinking more of the Disorderlies, you know.
Yeah, I mean that
oh my god! Oh,
then Breakin' 2.
oh my god! Disorderlies! Wow.
Yeah, the Fat Boys, for those who don't know.
And then you know they tried to redo that movie with Holly Berry and another girl called Babs. I was like, this is nothing but Disorderlies, just remixed. You know?
No, I did not know this.
Yeah. Have you seen Babs?
No.
Oh my god! Holly Berry plays a hairdresser from Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And she has like 2 gold teeth in It's such a good movie, but it's like it's so funny, like because to see Holly Berry play, you know, a hood chick is just hilarious to me.
There you
go.
go.
I love Holly Berry.
Babs was awful.
Awful entertaining.
I need to see this now.
My girls say that's one of their favorite movies. It's because it's Holly Berry. They take her, they just make her like so hood. But it's Disorderlies. And when you talk about Disorderlies, I always think about the Pieces team when they were playing poker with like the medicine or something.
Yeah, with all his pills. I mean, he had like a ton of medicine pills.
Yeah. So, R.I.P. to some. I think 2 of the Fat Boys didn't make it, or one of them didn't. But, yeah.
I think 2 of them have passed.
Yeah, 2 of them have passed. But, yeah. So, other.
Then Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, also known as Jean-Claude Van Damme's first movie.
Now, if you when you talk about Breakin', I know it's a tragic scene, but when he fell down the steps, I laughed my ass off. I'm sorry.
So much.
Just hilarious.
I mean, did you know Jean-Claude was in that?
Huh?
Did you know
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a scene where they get off a bus and there's a group of people dancing around cardboard. You know, some of them are breakdancing. Jean-Claude's in the background. He's in a singlet.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I think he puts something in the contract. He's like, if I'm in a movie, I gotta dance.
Oh my god! No wonder why he has a bad cocaine habit. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. But yeah,
it's not funny, man.
I don't know. I can't think of any like rap-based movies from the 80s because they kind of took off in the 90s with New Jack City.
Gosh, I love that movie.
Ice-T, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that New Jack City is what kept me from... You had the Dare shirts, but New Jack City was my way of saying no. Like, once I saw that movie, I was not dealing with any kind of, you know, pills or anything like that. It scared me so bad seeing Chris Rock play that role as Pookie.
Yeah.
So,
I am my brother's keeper.
yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, gosh, that scene at the end, oh man, it tore me up.
Oh, when the guy finally shot Nino?
Mm-hmm.
You know the crazy thing about New Jack City is the cop that was second to Ice-T, he was a guy in Breakfast Club. He was a guy that wore the gloves and stuff.
Yeah. I can't think of my man's name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
really good movie. Really good
Judd
movie.
Nelson.
Yes,
That's his name. Judd Nelson.
yes, Judd Nelson. But also another movie that I love from the 80s was The Last Dragon. 2 words, show enough.
Showed up for Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy.
Not Bruce Lee, but Bruce Leroy.
I love that movie. He gets the glow.
I like the movie too, but I can never get an S curl, which is basically take your natural hair and curl it like that, the soul glow. So I kind of was biased towards that movie because I could never get the soul glow. But
you had the lovely fantasy in that movie.
I've always had peach fuzz for hair, like my mom said. My hair wouldn't take any kind of process, you know, which is crazy because I actually have locks. Mm-hmm. So when I was younger, I couldn't get the soul glow, couldn't get the wet Jerry curl.
Get your soul glow.
Us bald guys are pleading the fifth on this part of the conversation.
See this is a tear.
So we talk about aliens, we talk about 80s movies, but what about the Hellraiser franchise?
My intro was Hellraiser 3. It's like I didn't get to see the first one until much later, but like Hellraiser 3 that was the one with like the I think now I'm in the early 90s because I remember CDs. Mm-hmm. Like that one Cenobite had the CDs that like
Cenobite had CDs.
Yeah.
That franchise was, I want to say, like if you can like manifest your image of what evil is, mm-hmm. That's Hellraiser. That's that franchise. You know, like it's like evil incarnate come to life. That and Event Horizon.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh my God. Oh. I saw Event Horizon after Jurassic Park, and I was like, "Wow, what? How can you take such a good guy and make him such a bad guy?" But yeah.
Heck, Sam Neill was. Didn't he play the Antichrist from The Omen? Like Omen 3. I think that was like one of the first.
Well, he was the dad, wasn't he?
No, I think he was. I think he was Damien as an adult.
Oh wow!
Okay.
Because I stopped at 1. You know, I have part 2 in the collection, but I barely watch it. But mm-hmm. I just remember that scene from part 1 where she was like, "Damien, look at me." She hung herself, and I was like, "Wow!"
She jumped off the roof and hung herself. Or no, wait, is that what she jumped off the roof?
Yeah, that's what she did.
Yeah.
Yes. Hellraiser, I'm still kind of like discovering that franchise with the Cenobites and, you know, Pinhead. I was watching the behind the scenes with the actual actor that plays Pinhead. He says every year he gets like hundreds of fan mails from women that actually want to have his children. I'm like, wow, these chicks are pretty dark. Like, wow, I want to have Pinhead's child. Like, oh my God.
He's like, well, I guess we can try.
Just talk me into it.
We mentioned Glory. We mentioned Platoon. Surprisingly, nobody's mentioned Full Metal Jacket.
Oh my God! Yes.
Full Metal Jacket to me was 2 different movies.
It really was.
Yeah, I love the first half. The second half, I did not like.
I agree with you, Daryl. 100%.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh, Josh!
Jeez, Juice. Wow. Yeah, Full Metal Jacket is a classic.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that whole boot camp thing, I ate that up.
Yeah.
Was that that's my boy who just recently passed, the guy who really was in the military, who has a voice?
Lee Ermey.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's funny story about that. One year, the first year I went to San Diego Comic-Con, we were waiting to get for the plane to come back. You know, me and my friend, we're just kind of sitting there talking. He's like, dude, I think that's that guy beside you. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. I kind of look and it's like this frail old man. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. He goes, well, I'm pretty sure that's him. And when we get on the plane, first class, That's him.
Oh my God!
I was like,
If,
wow.
if you want a reason,
He
if you want a
could've
reason to, if you want a reason to love him, watch a cult classic that nobody ever seen. It came out in like 2000. It was called Saving Silverman, and he was a coach in there, the PE coach,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Hey, Silverman, I'm here to stay with you." And Silverman was like, "No, you can't stay with me. My toilet's broken." He was like, "Don't worry, I'll take a crap right here by your mailbox." He literally takes a crap by his mailbox, and he's like, "We don't have any toilet paper." He's like, "Don't worry." He pulls the mail out the mailbox and wipes his butt. Oh my God, that's when I
See,
really
I thought you were going to say the Frighteners.
Saving Silverman and SpongeBob was
Wow.
my favorite moments of him.
Anytime I think about crap near a roadside, I can think of Christmas Vacation. When he's in the porta potty into the sewer system.
Shitter was full.
Dead Poets Society.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! Wow.
Was that
So-
80?
That was another one of those movies.
I think that was 90s, I believe.
No, that's 89.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
Wow.
But,
Robin Williams
Dead-
back in the day, wasn't it?
Think about that, man. Robin Williams really, in my mind, until Dead Poets Society, was just Mork for Mork.
Yeah.
You know, and then you saw Dead Poets Society, and you look at like some of the, again, you know, you take the Jim Carrey angle where he did like Ace Ventura, then he does these serious roles.
Yeah.
You look at like stuff that like he did after that, like Patch Adams and What Dreams May Come,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, man, this guy is
Talented.
pretty brilliant.
Talented.
You know,
Yeah.
all around talent. Yeah.
I mean, Dead Poets Society, that was so good.
Wow.
One of
just
the-
such. Oh my God.
One of Robin's like even earlier roles, I think it was earlier than that, was Fisher King.
yes, you're right.
I mean, he's fantastic in that. It's like a strange mix of comedy and drama. It's just when I watched that movie, I was blown away by his performance. It was just like, man.
It's hard for me to talk about Robin Williams because he's just wow. The man was such a good person, and to see him, like you wouldn't think like he was going through what he was going through, before he did what he did. Took his own life. Just such a good actor. You got oh my God, somebody said Toxic Avengers. You know what? That was the first Mutants that I liked. So before the X-Men.
Robin Williams, people pass and you go, man, that sucks. And then there's people that die and you feel like you really lost something special. And I think Robin Williams definitely falls into that category.
Jumanji.
Jumanji.
I mean, who doesn't?
Vietnam.
Huh?
Good Morning Vietnam.
Yes.
I know one summer I watched that movie every single day for a whole summer.
Good day.
Yeah.
You win.
This is Doubtfire.
Doubtfire.
Like I said, Jumanji. He was a genie in Aladdin. Just such a good guy. Like, wow.
How have we not mentioned the Karate Kid?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I just watched that last night. And the whole time, ever since the little Facebook meme hit that was talking about how Ralph Macchio was actually the bad guy in the movie, I watched the movie through that lens, and I'm sold.
Yeah.
I really am.
Well,
I feel really, really bad for Johnny now. Johnny.
Have you watched How I Met Your Mother? Have you watched How I Met Your Mother?
Nah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
there's a big plot in that TV show where he's like, I want to meet the hero, and he's talking about Johnny. And then finally, they both actually come on the show.
I think we've
That's
lost
a
Fred.
nice story.
Oh, no, there's Fred.
There it is.
He moved. I thought you had frozen up. You'd gotten so still.
Oh no! I was
holy
actually
crap,
agreeing with you. Yeah, they had like a YouTube thing called Cobra Kai on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah,
I do want to see that, but I just don't want to pay for it.
that's me right there. I
When
want
you,
to see
when
it,
you
but I'm
talk,
not subscribing to YouTube Red.
but when you talk about like Karate Kid, I put Karate Kid, Bloodsport, movies like that are they kind of all in my karate like section, because when I was growing up, you had Samurai Sunday where they would play like classic any movie with kung fu in it,
Mhm.
So I kind of grew up in people that's not well. I don't want to say well educated, but a lot of people don't realize that the Wu-Tang Clan is basically based off of actual movies. You have one movie called The Old Dirty Bastard. You have one movie called Iron Man. You have one movie called Five Deadly Venoms. And I remember on Sundays, they used to play those movies probably like at 8 o'clock. So the Karate Kid was very popular because that was that time. Remember, we had people like Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and G.I. Joe. You had like just a lot of influence of martial arts during the 80s. Like that's a big influence in the 80s. Martial arts.
Well, all the comic advertisements, learn karate now.
Yep.
You could buy ninja stars, through mail order.
Nunchucks.
Yeah, that's it.
And who didn't hit themselves in the nuts with their nunchucks and just be like, nah, this is not for me. I swear, Josh, I used to be in the front yard and as soon as I hit my nuts, I'm like, all right, that's it.
That's it.
I'll just be Raphael. I won't be Michelangelo.
Tell you the funny thing though.
I remember we used to start kind of going on trees and stuff. Oh my gosh.
When I was young, Karate Kid was like the end all be all karate movie. Who didn't want to be Ralph Macchio? I watched it last night, and the one thing that stuck out the entire time I watched it was just how god awful the actual karate was.
Oh my god!
It like you watch like Jackie Chan, and then of course old Bruce Lee and stuff like that, and then you watch this, and it's just like this is absolutely and utterly ridiculous.
What you're saying is you watch real martial artists, then you watch that.
Yeah, I watched the Karate Kid.
I think that's why we was able to move quickly from what was the movie with Bruce Leroy? That's why we quickly moved from that. Oh my god!
How y'all move past that so fast? I mean, come on.
The Karate and Last Dragon was.
I mean, show enough. God.
How do you do karate and Chuck Taylors? Come on, man.
He caught a bullet with his teeth.
You know what I'm saying? Like that was the greatest bad guy besides Clobber Lang.
Yeah.
Clobber Lang was amazing.
A tall black guy with a ponytail. Who's your master? But yeah, when you watch movies like that, but then you start thinking about Jean-Claude Van Damme, who bursts on the scene with Bloodsport.
Yes.
Do you remember? I was so scared of whoever that
Bolo?
big Asian guy is. That was like,
Bolo?
Huh?
Bolo.
I was so scared of him growing up.
That was a big dude. I mean, he
God.
was a huge guy for years and years.
He recently just passed, I think. But I think he passed like last year. But just Bloodsport and Jean-Claude Van Damme bursting on the scenes doing all these splits and stuff like that. He kind of ushered us in from the 80s Karate Kid and all that kind of stuff to the 90s kind of like, going off or whatever. So
Steven Seagal.
What was, and Brent, and, oh my God.
The Lord of, I always called him like, he was the king of slap food.
Yeah.
He like slap the hell out of people.
But he would use your own momentum. I think it's called jujitsu. I forget what it's called, but he would use your own momentum against you.
He was
We're talking Seagal?
He was
Steven Seagal.
He's Aikido.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought it was just ridiculous. Like he'd break your arm, your leg, your spine, and then shoot you.
Yeah, he's Aikido, but now he's IKEA because he's gotten real big. Oh my God! Did you see that? Go ahead.
I still think the best scene in the movie's what's her face coming out of the cake.
Oh yeah, 20 Leagues Under the Sea. What was that called?
Swanson.
What was it called? When he was in a submarine or something like that. I know what you're talking about, but yeah, happy birthday.
Under Siege.
Yeah, happy birthday when she jumped. Yeah. Oh. But my favorite Steven Seagal movie is actually called Out for Justice.
Yes.
Anybody see Richie? You know what? She killed Bobby Lupo. It's so gangster. I love that one. But yeah, Steven Seagal was he had his time in the limelight, but then he came out with a TV show on A&E where he was riding around as a sheriff. And I think he should have got more in shape because he was. Even I would run from Steven Seagal at that age. Like, I'll take my chances.
Throw a ham sandwich.
Because you could outrun him.
Well, let's just say this. Anderson Silva gave him a lot of props for helping him do a lot of stuff.
Okay.
For those who don't know Anderson Silva, he was maybe the greatest UFC guy ever.
They called him Captain America, right? They called him Captain America.
Who? Anderson Silva?
I think so.
No. He was from Brazil.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
You're thinking of Randy Couture.
I'm thinking of Randy Couture. Oh, yeah. Now I know what you're talking about.
But
Silva is a skinnier guy who he's one of the greatest of all time. Like, I've seen him.
I mean, there was this one fight. Spider. Yeah. There's this one fight that the guy was coming forward. He basically pulled a crane kick to kick the man in the face and gave Seagal credit for it.
That was hit to this day. His leg breaking is one of the. Yeah.
I've seen a few of those in the day, and that was a nasty one.
To see him kick the guy and then try to stand on his leg, and it's like on the other side of his body, and he collapsed. Yeah. I didn't know the Spider gave him credit.
Yeah. I mean, Seagal came to the cage with him a few different times.
Okay.
In that big long trench coat that he would wear.
I hope
he was trying to look like Neo.
Speaking of trench coats, and I know this is a break from what we're talking about, but Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, recently retired. I said that with a tear in my eye because hey, you talk about 80s movies and horror movies. The first real person in sports that I was really scared of was actually the Undertaker, and he's been wrestling for about 32 years.
Yeah, 30-something years. Yeah.
So to see him retire, regardless of what we're doing, you gotta definitely take a break and give respect to the Undertaker because that's a pretty big retirement, in sports.
Yep.
To put your body through that for that long is yeah.
And to know what type of man he is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
He's really, to tell you the truth, I carry myself now that I've gotten older and I've kind of been able to go behind the scenes and see how he carries himself. I actually carry myself just like the Undertaker behind the scenes. I want to be a person that's known for respect and good judgment and just call it down the middle and don't let my ego get in the way. So,
I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a professional wrestler with more respect than he's got.
Taker.
Yeah.
Taker.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, there's no one that dislikes that man.
Yep.
That's really impressive.
I haven't seen anybody say anything. I've heard people say stuff about every wrestler.
Yeah.
When it comes to Mark Calloway, I haven't seen anybody say anything negative about him. So, yeah, where do we get off wrong on the 80s movies? What's going on?
Well, we're at 2 hours and 48 minutes. You guys want to about get ready to call it?
We'll drop the mic with E.T. How about that?
Extraterrestrial.
I actually just watched that a couple of days ago. Still Drew Barrymore's best movie. Her best movie.
Huge Star Wars reference, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
When he walked past Yoda, he thought and he acted like he knew him. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who didn't want to get trapped following a trail of Reese's Pieces after that movie?
Matter of fact, that's why I like Reese's Pieces to this day because of that movie.
There you go.
So
They had the most feel good, and of course the quarantine scene was just absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
he turned white.
Mm-hmm.
When they found him by the river and he was white, I just
that was hardcore.
Yeah. I mean,
That
still,
movie wasn't appropriate for people my age going to see it. It really wasn't.
I watched it just the other day, and I'm just like, let him die, man.
I just walked out of the theater like a blow-up doll, like,
That is the worst. Wait a minute, Dennis, are you still here? Please make a screenshot of that. Hold on, y'all keep talking 1 second.
1 second.
Wow.
You're gonna be the next meme, Bill.
I don't care. It'll take
Elliot.
the heat off of Ricky for a second.
Yeah.
He's too
Really?
scared to even come back on.
Did you go use the restroom or something?
I don't know.
know.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
I probably. Never mind. I can't say that. Let's blow his spot up and turn this into an X-rated show real quick. Oh,
This will be going on sale soon.
Wait.
Who's gonna buy one of those?
Make your own meme. Make your own meme.
Oh man. You should buy a stack of those, give them to Ricky to sign, and hand them out at Big Lake.
Yeah. There you go.
Or give them away.
Ewoks.
Give them away on your AOKs.
There you go. Yeah, like Ricky, I need you to sign a few of these. Thanks.
I cannot believe you printed those all.
Put on this blindfold now. Randomly.
Gotta
write
do what you
your
gotta
name.
do.
Oh man.
Dennis, we're gonna be. We need some for Billy there too. Thanks.
But anyway, I could not let an 80s night go by without mentioning E.T.
Of course, E.T. is a classic.
Yeah, great movie. I mean, there's a bunch more I still got, like Bill and Ted. I don't know if we mentioned that or not.
Did y'all talk about
We didn't
talk about
it,
Indiana
but it did
Jones?
Get a mention.
Teen Wolf.
Oh yeah, we talked Indiana Jones. Teen
Okay,
Wolf.
just making sure, Cracker.
Michael J. Fox.
Teen Wolf was a great movie back in the day.
They actually have the basketball jersey. You can buy it on Amazon. It's like $25.
Yeah, I think I saw that not too long ago. I was like, that's pretty awesome.
I'm gonna go to get the Space Jam one though.
Did we mention Back to the Future?
Yeah, we
What?
mentioned Back to the Future.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, got Labyrinth.
Hold on, but when you do Bill and Ted, you got to mention death,
Yeah.
especially when they're playing.
George Carlin.
George
Especially
Carlin.
when they was playing Twister and he put his feet. best 7 out of 5. Damn straight.
Yeah, the new movie should be coming out soon too.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think too much time has passed, but still, I hope it's good. The Legend of Billie Jean. I love that movie.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Legend of Billie Jean. That's a classic.
Fair is fair.
She cut her hair. That's all I
Yeah.
remember. In the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you
I
mentioned
went to San Diego a couple years ago, so that's awesome. She got lucky to meet me.
when you mention
Yeah.
movies like that, you might as well say Old Yeller because those are movies that tug at my emotions.
Oh gosh, jeez. Let's go back to talk about something that'll make us happy, not Old Yellow. Oh my god, man. Here,
Y'all mentioned Buckaroo Banzai.
there we go. We'll talk about that. Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai. Come on. No love for Buckaroo.
Gotta love it.
Well, discuss.
I don't know what to discuss.
He was a Buckaroo, and his name was Banzai.
He's not doing a very good job of making me want to go see this movie because honestly, I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with that movie. It's interesting. It's weird.
Hold on, I'll Google it on Wikipedia, and then I won't need to see the movie.
There you go.
There you go.
Batteries not included.
Oh my god, classic.
Yeah, yeah.
Classic.
Was that on?
Let's see. Anything else? Man, you know what? I think I've hit pretty much everything on my list. Maybe I don't. Maybe we don't need a sequel coming sometime soon.
Yeah, because this has only been almost 3 hours.
Well, I mean, last week was 3.5, so come on.
Oh man, we're talking about wrestling all the whole damn time. Supposed to be talking about.
It was only the last 2 hours.
Yeah. So,
All right, guys.
I had a good time, guys. Enjoying you guys, and I'll definitely be looking up your YouTube channels if you have YouTube channels. It's always nice to have more family than what I have. So,
Right
if you
on.
need some art, to talk to Josh over here. Josh does some really good art.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't believe I said that.
I know, right? Even I'm disgusted.
By
the way, Josh, I do want to get if you can do a painting sometime, I would love to get one of those.
Just as long as it's not like the movie The Titanic, the painting that he was doing Titanic.
It'd be Daryl naked.
Just get the necklace.
As long as we keep the painting from the shoulders up.
From the shoulders up. It's more like from the chin up.
Well, from the forehead up.
He's going to cut me off now. Daryl, why are you growing your beard back?
I shaved it a few weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, I'll shave it again eventually.
Yeah. I mean, quarantine beard.
Yeah. I mean, I had it for, right at 3 months. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well,
And you shaved it and you're like, I'm naked. I need my beard back.
I mean, I was like playing with it and stuff.
Yeah. And now that it's gone, you're like, where did it go?
My hands, it's like they have no need to do anything.
I can't play with myself anymore. Oh.
Ain't lying.
He just needs the old beat up white van with free kittens on the side. He's just
and I'm playing them by the river.
Chris Farley. Oh my God.
I love me some Farley. That's a guy that when he passed away, I felt so sad.
I did too, because he was on the cusp of his career. So
yeah,
Tommy Boy. Oh my God.
Someday you will choke that chicken. Beverly Hills Ninja. I love that.
Oh man.
All right, guys. What Bill?
I said it's time.
It's time.
It's time.
You guys be blessed.
Go ahead.
Good to talk to you tonight.
All right.
Excelsior.
Get a chance, check out Josh's Instagram, Balloon82. That's BULUN 82. Does some great art for an amateur. I mean, does great art. Billy, he just looks like this. Fred Hall Direct Edition. Everyone check out Fred Hall Direct Edition right here on YouTube. And me, I got nothing. Hey, Fred.
Yeah.
Can you end this for me?
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to another Simply Incredible podcast. I got my brothers with me. I had a pretty good time. Anytime you can see 4 guys sitting up here with a smile on their face the whole time on the podcast, it's a good podcast. We believe in expanding our brain, and we also believe that, we don't see color. We just see human race, and we see the contents of your character. And, we got all age groups, and we're brothers. And, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to comics and it comes to movies and it comes to music, you go past political views, you go past economic status, you just become brothers. And I'm glad to know that I have 2 new brothers, as well as my big brother D. And this is not the last time you're going to see all 4 of us together. We're signing off. You guys be blessed. And like I always say, focus on the ones that show you love, the ones that don't show you love. hey, we're just going to keep on rolling without them. I pray that you guys be blessed. Everything that you put your hands on will be successful. And we're out of here. It's been 3 hours. See you guys later.
Peace.
All right, brother. Y'all be good.
Have a good night, man.